Good evening. My name is Keith Romano. I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is the Inland Wetlands Commission meeting for the town of Monroe. It is July 26, 2023, and the time is 7:04 p.m. Everyone please stand to recite the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Take a roll call of members of the commission and staff present during tonight's hybrid meeting. Please answer here are present, starting with myself, Keith Romano, Chairman, Eric Lindstrom, Vice Chair. Here. Rick Smith. Here. Jim Stewart. Here. Licensed engineer and surveyor in the state of Connecticut. Ross Massaraco. Here. Ryan Kelly. Here. Rick Schultz, Planning and Zoning Administrator. Present. Cheryl Valerie, Planning and Zoning and Inland Wetlands Enforcement Officer. Here. And Sarah Stroud, Recording Secretary.
Here.
Thank you. Before we start, I'll read our mission statement and how the meeting will proceed. Inland Wetlands Mission Statement. The objective and purpose of the Inland Wetlands Commission is to provide for the overall protection and preservation of the inland wetlands and watercourses within the town of Monroe. Meeting procedure. Please note that this meeting is being conducted utilizing electronic equipment in compliance with State Law Public Act 21-1. As such, this meeting is being recorded and will be available to the public in compliance with the state law. If you are attending remotely, please remember to mute your microphone unless speaking. Anyone participating remotely should state their name and title, if applicable, at the outset of each occasion that such person is speaking. All votes taken during which any member of this body are participating remotely shall be taken by roll call unless the vote is unanimous. Chat features will not be utilized nor considered during this meeting. In the normal course of our meetings, we will hear public hearings and other applications. The protocol for public hearings is to have an applicant make presentation to the commission during which and after which the commission will be asking the applicant questions. I ask that applicants keep their presentations as concise as possible. The commission will then review town staff and other independent comments. The meeting will then be open for public comment. I will ask that all comments be made to the chair or commission. After any and all comments pro and opposition or of a general nature are made, the applicant will be given an opportunity to respond. Please keep comments or questions direct, or a time limit of 3 minutes may be imposed. It is not necessary that applicant respond, but generally in their best interest to do so. There will be no further opportunity for new questions unless new material is entered in as evidence or testimony during their response. Please keep all comments pro and con specific to inland wetlands related matters. Other applications that do not involve a public hearing will follow a similar format with the exception that there will be no public comments allowed. The meeting follows our published agenda unless otherwise amended. Are there any changes to the agenda?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we're adding to the agenda under enforcement, IWV 2023-07, file 1453, 27 Maple Drive. There's a clearing and disturbance within the wetland and upland review area. I would also note, Mr. Chairman, that we have our town engineer on Zoom call, James DeMeo.
Right. Other than that, what I'm going to do tonight is move the two public hearings to the end of the meeting, and we'll take care of all the other business really quickly. Okay. I'd like to introduce in my mind. My left, Rick Smith is our new commissioner on the Inland Wetlands Commission. Thank you for joining us. Now we have a general public participation. This is a period of time that anybody in the public, either online or in person, has any questions they'd like to ask this commission in regards to any wetlands matter, as long as it's not part of our current docket or soon to be in the near future. Anybody have anything they'd like to bring to our attention? All right, thank you. Moving along, we're going to move on to application acceptance, regular hearing determination. IWC 2023-05, file number 1447, 5 Victoria Drive, proposed field expansion and upland review area. There it is. R. Nunes OA2 LLC, owner applicant, Solar Engineering LLC representative.
They're anticipating coming later.
Okay. All right, we'll move along. We'll skip over that one for now. IWC 2023-07, 1452, 420 West Circle, proposal to construct a new single-family residence, well installation adjacent to the wetlands. Yeah,
Mr. Chairman, the applicants are here, and they're proposed to put a house in the upland review area and a well, and they have a planting plan and wetland marker signs are also included in the proposal. State your name.
Hi, good evening. Andrew Morse, AMCO Development. The reason why we're here tonight is to review a proposed home in the 100-foot upland review area at 421 West Circle. Unfortunately, we saw there was a little bit of wetlands at the rear of the property, and we submitted the site plan. So we're here to review that. And tonight we brought in our soil scientist that can answer any kind of questions you may have.
Everything is proposed is at least 25 feet away from the wetlands line?
It looks that way, correct?
With the exception of any buffer plantings that we made.
Right, I see that. Any commissioners have any questions on this application?
Only because of my newness, it's on a 100-foot wetlands offset includes the house, so
The house is in there.
not like it's very dry or 100 year, I mean, but all they're doing is moving a well from there to there. There's a fence and then maybe a deck. That's the driveway? That's the driveway.
What size are the red maples?
Jim McManus, so professional soil scientist, JM Wetland Consulting Services, offices in Newtown.
Right.
That's member, or, second growth.
As long as they could be
It's the wetlands right here.
hand dug for installation. It's only, you don't want like 3-inch caliper.
No, yeah,
You
yeah.
gotta bring a machine, right by the wetlands edge.
No.
Stuff is all hand
It's not
dug.
a problem.
No, we're not
That's the only thing that
That won't be an issue.
anybody have anything on that?
Yeah, I got one question. I mean, you're proposing a want to use a backyard with that. And I've seen a lot of these where it gets approved and then the guy building the house just says, I'm making more of a backyard, it's done. So what's the plan so that if this is approved, it does not absolutely get beyond this during the construction?
We're going to have the silt fence in place, and we're going to make sure that nobody goes beyond that silt fence that's lined up with the clearing limits on the plan.
You gotta install the sign.
And we've got to install the signs in place too, correct?
So they're proposing 3 signs, and this plan doesn't show it, but they're going to be put along the buffer area. And to let them know that those plantings in that buffer area are to remain in natural state. So that it'll at least protect.
It's a little light. I think it should be like
Planting plan.
5. With the turns, is that cool?
Yeah, sometimes it's every 30 feet and then wherever it turns, it's typical.
And then, anybody else?
What was your request?
A sign at every turn
sign at every turn.
Yeah, you can see the line that looks like is that a proposed fence or is that the silt fence?
Silt fence has little circles.
All right, so, yeah, so that disturbance line, it's everywhere it turns,
That's where you want the markers.
would be normal. So, connect the dots and then you have the line.
Usually they're put, right around, kind of on the exterior of the buffer. That's usually kind of where they are, but if, whatever the commission. Fine.
So more or less they'd be in line with the proposed planting line.
More or less,
Yeah.
more in front though, but yes.
Where the silt fence line,
You want them on the silt fence line?
well, isn't that where the limited disturbance is?
Yes.
Right, so there should never be a disturbance beyond that line.
That's correct.
So, yeah, when the silt fence comes out, the signs can go in.
So you're saying that, so when the wetland markers are over here, that this is all in natural state? All of that, or just, you know what I mean?
Well, the
So if you put the wetland markers along this silt fence line,
right,
there's this whole area over here as well. So this is more of the yard. Is this all to be kept in natural state or just?
well, if that was to be converted to grass, wouldn't the silt fence be going around that area?
I'm assuming that when the silt fence comes out, that this, are you planning to
That's
make
his question.
this grass? This corner, the upper corner?
Any of the areas disturbed is going to be seeded in grass, correct?
The question is,
Okay.
beyond the silt fence line, going towards the wetlands, where you plant, that's the limited disturbance, the silt fence. You're not planning on, to the right of that silt fence, obviously there's a well there.
Yep.
Which the silt fence is going to go around that. But any of that area to the rear property line, was that going to be converted to grass?
It was the intention to have some grass behind the house, then convert it into like conservation seed.
So the silt fence is the limited disturbance. You're not disturbing anything beyond the silt fence.
Correct.
Okay.
Up in the upper left-hand corner.
So then the signs can go there.
Got it.
Can I ask what used to be on the property? I see that there is remnants of a foundation. There's a dug well that's being abandoned.
I'm assuming.
Yeah, there's an old abandoned home or garage or something, stone circle the street. That's why this house is pushed back, because all the soils up front for the septic system purposes are all disturbed.
That's an old farm barn or something, because it has a stone foundation. But other than that, there's no remnants of anything other than that.
So it's not, is it a treed site at this point or
Not anymore.
No.
Anything else, anybody?
Why don't we go to a regular
hearing?
I second that.
So
Got a motion to move to regular hearing from Commissioner Stewart, second by Commissioner Kelly. All in favor? Aye. Application moves to regular meeting. IWC 20.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're all set, thank you. IWC 2019-0601, file number 1226, 269 Purchasville Road. Request amend permit to allow existing single-family residents to remain and reduce overall acreage of lot from 10.095 to 9.011 acres, including relocation of previously approved footing drain, outfall adjacent to the wetland.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to, in your packets, it's just a blow up of the plan that was submitted showing the property line, the wetland, the house, and the relocation of the footing drain. It's in your packet. I just want to let you know.
Right.
That one? Contract? You had a meeting?
Jason, kind of went a little overboard the last one because it's just a determination.
Yeah.
Kind of got into the whole detail, so just quickly.
It's a little bit of a unique situation. This is, it's called crossing, for the record, Jason Edwards, J. Edwards Associates, Engineer Surveyors, 227 Stephanie Road in Easton. Public crossing, it's the new condominium development being built on the corner of Purdy Hill Road and Cutler's Farm Road. It has a valid wetlands permit. It's under construction. It's probably 75% complete. The builder was going to be here. He may show up any minute. But what they're trying to do is part of that original parcel, there was an existing house at 269, or there is an existing house at 269 Purdy Hill Road. The zoning requires that they have a minimum of 9 acres to do their condo development. So they got approved with 9 acres. One of the conditions of approval was to demolish that existing house. Now, considering the housing market and the lack of housing, available in Monroe and elsewhere in Connecticut, they've decided that they'd like to try to keep that house and sell it to someone else or make it part of the condominiums. They're not sure, but they don't want to demolish it. So to do that, we had to find a septic area. One of the constraints is this existing house. So the larger parcel to this bottom of the screen here, that's the condominiums. This is the existing home. There's a septic area in the back, but the soils on this back area are terrible. We couldn't get a perforated of even better than 160 back there, so we couldn't put a new septic. So we came up to here where this notch is, and we were able to find decent soils there, and we designed a reserve area. It's not something they're going to install right now. It's just a compliance, the B100 compliance area. The system's not failing yet for that house. I wouldn't be surprised if it does fail in the near future, but as of right now, it's not failing. So this application is not to construct that septic right now. It is on the plans. They may have to construct it in the future, but it's not going to be constructed immediately. So we have to demonstrate compliance with health. That's why it's shown on there. So really, there is no regulated activity proposed at this time. The only regulated activity is to relocate the footing drain on, there's an existing footing drain that's been installed as part of the approved development, the condo development. So to make enough room, we have to maintain a 25 minimum separation distance from that to the new septic if it's installed. So we have to slide that over. The existing one is right in there. We have to reroute that pipe and move it over to here. So that they can have that separation distance and have a septic area there. So that's the only regulated activity that's proposed here. And that's an active site. It's, I don't know, that hill's stabilized. I don't think it's fully secure. So this is, we're really before you, I guess, for that movement. And then also this is a subdivision. So we have to be before you to review the subdivision as well. Any questions, I'd be happy to. One other thing, septic repairs, I know in the past they've been a administratively approved item. If there is a system failure, there was a memo from the former town engineer that indicated that they were exempt from, not from wetlands regulations, but they were something that was allowed administratively. So I don't know how that bears on this application, but put it on the record.
If it's approved, it's just gonna, it's good. Whenever they do it, they just go file it.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a hearing material. So
There will be a public hearing for the planning and zoning.
Motion to go to a regular
Motion from Mr. Stewart for regular meeting. Have a second? Second. Commissioner Lyncham, all in favor? Aye. Aye. Motion passes. Thank you. Citizens report recommendation to the Planning and Zoning Commission, IWC 2023-06, file 1449, 269 Purdy Hill Road, subdivision referral, Planning and Zoning Commission. That's exactly what all I gotta do is just state that, right?
That's what this is, yes.
Yeah.
If you want to give a report and recommendation to the planning commission, because they're reviewing it for subdivision right now.
Okay. All right, so that's it, right? Move on to the other stuff.
Unless you have any kind of recommendations that you want to pass on to the commission, or you just have no comment.
No comments or
or
concern?
Yeah,
If you have no comments or concerns, we can put that in the report.
I mean, they're gonna deal with the subdivision.
Everything.
Yeah. I don't think so.
Okay,
I think we're good.
got it.
All right, so deliberation session is going to be saved for,
First one.
did 5 Victoria Drive show up?
Oh, Mr. Chairman.
Slowly.
All right, we'll check back again. I'm drawing a blank. Okay. Permanent extension request, IWC 2018-10 file 11.
That's a quick question, sorry. So I live right behind the 269 Purdy Hill. Originally, when we did the inland wetlands, they were supposed to put trees up, like in terms of like for that development. Like one, for the privacy, two, I've been getting a lot of water slowed down from that development onto now my property. I didn't know, I mean, it did from that development, so I didn't know how.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, we'll be addressing that at the P and Z.
It sounds like a P&Z matter. Yeah.
And if you can give me a call or stop by, my name's Rick Schultz, and I'll go over the plans with you. That is a work in progress, but I want to make sure everything will be addressed.
Thank you very much.
Okay, permanent extension request, IWC 2018-10, file 1161 Monroe Turnpike, 5-year permanent extension requested to construct a new single-family residence, driveway, septic, stormwater management system.
Mr. Chairman, the applicant didn't start the project for various personal reasons and would just like the 5-year extension.
Move to approve 5-year extension.
Got a motion from Commissioner Stewart for a 5-year extension. Have a second? Second. Second by Commissioner Lindstrom. All in favor? Aye. Permit has been extended for 5 years. IWC 2018-07, file 1145, 205 Monroe Turnpike, 5-year permit extension request to construct a gas station, convenience store with drive-through food service, restaurant, retail units with a drive-through bank, office, medical buildings, includes filling and excavation for grading, installation of storm drainage, utilities, retaining wall, stormwater detention facility, water quality control units, stormwater discharge level spreaders, temporary diversion swales and settlement areas, fencing, landscaping, and other site improvements within an upland review area.
Mr. Chairman, this was actually on your agenda recently for modification, a minor modification to the site plan. It's the property behind, that's going to be developed behind Panera and the gas station.
Noble Gas.
Noble Gas. And right after that approval for the modification, the applicant realized that their permit was going to expire on August 22nd. So they're looking for a 5-year extension.
That was 5 years ago? How long was the original permit?
5 years is what was it?
Yeah, 2018.
2018. Right. So
5 years.
5 years. And they're looking to, so the new expiration date would be August 22nd, 2028.
Okay.
Motion to approve 5-year extension.
A motion from Commissioner Stewart for 5-year extension. Have a second?
Yeah.
Second, Commissioner Lindstrom. All in favor? Aye. Extension granted for 205 Monroe Turnpike. Auto enforcement. 27 Maple Drive.
So, these are the agenda. So there was a notice of violation sent very recently, and I went out to take a look at the property. I'm just going to hand out very quickly the aerial photographs and just a couple of brief ones I took. The owner is here to discuss. Basically, it's 27 Maple Drive. There are multiple structures on the property. It abuts a water course and a floodway. And upon my arrival, there was a machine out there. They were taking a tree down, and then there were multiple trees in the back that had already been taken down in preparation for some kind of development that I don't think has come through planning and zoning yet. So we had a conversation, and I just put it on the agenda to alert you that they'd stopped work, and I'd requested that they come in with a remediation plan, but again, it was very recent, so nothing's been submitted just yet. If you have any questions, Mr. Stein is here if you have any questions.
Basically, yes, what we're talking about is a tree that was laying over the house. And all the trees were high up, but this area near the house was open. This tree was leaning just about over the house. Basically, what I did is I cut it down. Even when I did that, we had a machine there to try to go and not let the tree get near the house. And it still caused some, one branch came over and hit the house and caused some damage to it. I brought a picture of you here if you'd like to take a look at it.
Did you point that out on our drawings, where the tree is with regard to the house? Where is the tree with regard to the house in this picture?
This picture is,
This is the wetlands area over here. There's a bigger picture here. All of the property. So those are all the buildings.
talking about a building that's over here.
It was over here and like right around here. This area. So you come in with the driveway this way, and it was over here. And then the pile of logs.
Okay.
They're over here.
So the pile of logs is right here, right next to the yellow.
Okay.
Over here. And this is the 100-foot, I wrote on there, 100-foot upland review area from roughly from the water.
Let's look at the distance from the house. Doesn't look like it.
Distance to the house is 50 feet.
From the tree that you took down.
Right. Here it is right here. Basically, well,
It's just a picture of
well, how else to do it?
Just a take, picture of a tape. Okay.
It's from the tree to the front door of the house.
Where's the front door? Over here? Over here.
Carol, is the violation, is it the placement of the tree, the logs in the wetlands review? Is that?
Sorry, I can't hear you.
The front door is right here.
Is the violation the tree, the wood that's piled in the wetlands? Is that the violation?
Trees being removed on the bank of a wetland. So that was number one.
So it was in the wetland.
Yes, but then if you look on the pictures, there's a pile of trees that have been felled that I would contend is in the 100-foot upland review area. So there's those two components.
The reason for the trees being there and everything.
Back to the microphone, please.
Oh, yeah, so you can be on the record.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, sorry.
I don't know if you even stated
No.
Would you mind stating your name for the record too?
address.
Your address.
That's right.
Address?
27, do you live at 27 Maple Drive?
Let him state his name.
Yeah.
No, I don't live in that.
So state your name and your address, please. Your address. Where do you live?
27 Maple Drive.
Where do you live?
27 Maple Drive.
That's where you live.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you, okay.
Interview, so what's the address here that we're working with?
You don't live at this address or you do?
No, I do not.
Where, so you live at 27 Maple Drive. Where is the issue?
This is 29 Maple Drive.
Oh, it's all one lot. That's why I wrote it down like that, because it's all one property.
Now I got it. You live,
Yeah. There's
some other
multiple
Jason.
structures on the
okay,
property.
we're good now.
720.
So
So you cut down a tree on the riverbank is what you're saying?
Correct. So he stopped that, he took one down, but then there's, if you look in the pictures, there's a bunch of trees and clearing over here, which I would say would be in the upland review area. We don't know for sure because the wetlands haven't been flagged. So there's clearing in the upland review as well.
So there's more than one tree in this picture that's down.
Right.
How many trees have you cut down?
Maybe 20, 25.
You cleared 25 trees in an upland review area without a permit.
Well, because I'm basically going to build a two-car garage on the house and
Okay, all right, now we get it. It wasn't a storm damage situation.
Right, so
All right,
it's
you
not one
started
tree.
clearing a lot before you had permission to do it. And it's all within 100 feet, it's all within 100?
That's what my contention is, since we don't have or a soil report done, but looking at the aerial photography,
You have a plan with the garage showing where you're going to put this garage? Tell me where that is, where the proposed garage is.
right here.
Is it this?
That's the existing.
Hold on, I'm talking about. Sorry. This is the proposed, it says proposed garage, it's attached to this building.
Correct.
Okay. And where were you clearing the trees? Approximate to that.
I took the trees down that were here, right in this area, so I could put the garage.
I can see that. Showing.
This is where he indicated he took trees down. That's his right. So he's talking right over here.
This plan doesn't show us where the west, this doesn't show us.
He's within, what's the yellow, Cheryl, on this? What's the yellow?
that's supposedly well, this is the flood zone. This yellow line is his property line.
Yeah, right here.
I was looking at the wetland line and I measured on the GIS 100 feet from I'm assuming the water course is 100
Look,
feet.
This is proposed garage right there, right?
Right here.
So that means that's within.
That's my contention.
Okay, so what I think, you can have this plan back. I think we definitely have to make an application to this commission for permission to do anything further, including the garage addition.
I know, I have to do that.
Review area. Shouldn't have been clearing any trees without permission either. And you said you cut down 20 of them?
That.
One tree, like it's dying, is, going and ask permission, that's really not a big deal. But then you cut down 20 trees, right? Make way for a project that hasn't even been permitted yet.
Right.
So what is the status of the removal? Did you just leave, is all the debris still there, or has it been chipped? Has it been moved out of the way? What's the status of the trees you cut down?
Status of the logs that are there, I have a fellow in Monroe that's going to come and take them.
Yeah, what about all the brush?
Brush is all chipped. There's no,
It's all chipped. The chips are off-site?
no, on the site.
In that, you think in that 100-foot area above in the wetland, from the wetlands?
And the chipping is taking place on the other side of the property,
But away from the wetlands?
away from the wetlands, correct.
Okay.
It's all been
Were you out there?
I went down the driveway to where he was in his vehicle.
Right.
That's as far as I went. I took the pictures and I didn't go.
The logs that are stacked, they look like they're far enough away from or are they kind of close? I mean, the perspective.
Review area, I don't think they're in a wetland, but I think they're in the upland review area.
Right. I think the best thing you could do is get those logs out of there as soon as possible, away from the upland review area, and then file your application for a permit. If the chips are not, if they weren't blown into the wetland or anything like that, then we shouldn't have any real problems.
And I'll give you an application. I think I might have sent one in the mail, but I'll get you another one.
Well, yeah, you know that you're not doing anything else in that area until you get trees.
No.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Okay. Good with that one.
Okay.
Right. Now we have deviation submissions, IWR 2023-02, file 1450, 46 Hampton Town Road. Proposed wetlands restoration planting plan. As a result of clearing disturbance of wetlands in the proper area. I don't know who's the owner. Do you have a name?
Harris? I think I'm not pronouncing it right.
Eric, right, oh.
Is that anybody here for that? Come on down.
State your name and address for the record.
Fred Harris at 46 Town Road.
Kathleen Harris. Same address.
We have a plan here somewhere. Right? Yeah. Any questions about the plans, anybody? Seen it? Tonight?
There are pictures of the site provided in your packets, and then there's a buffer restoration planting plan. And they had the wetlands flagged right away, so didn't even go on the agenda as a violation. They came right in for the permit, so.
Here it is. Give us a little history of what happened here. What's the history of what happened here?
We have trees that fell into the wetland. At the time, we did not know it was a wetland. And we had 3 large trees fall in the last 10 months or so. And they're talking about 70-foot high trees that just came in, what we found out later on from the wetland. So we came up with, after talking to the soil scientists, we have a buffer restoration plan that we want to implement.
So what happened to the tree? So they fell down, but then
A car fell into the road. We had to call the police and they took part of it away. And so since then, Fred has cut up
rest
as
of the
much as probably still some more. It was huge. And then we found out that it was a wetland. We never
Never
had
saw a
been.
wetland before that.
Okay.
So you went in there with something and kind of pulled all the wood out and everything, kind of disturbed it a little bit.
It's our grandkids playing around the area, and the tree was about 5 feet down.
Okay. That's a professional drawing. Do you have any ideas? Comment?
We had the soil scientists come.
Yeah, but they know.
Yeah, we have the report from Alexandra.
Walk around so you can see what the area is.
That's right on the border of the wetlands, right next to the wetland markers where you're going to put the remediation. And I know that you have problems with floods in that area, your property.
We have floods. It does have water because sometimes there's when it's snow, like we have now in front.
But we've never had any floods, unless we don't understand the definition of flood.
Oh, no. This isn't, I guess there's The offsite wetland is wooded with clearing along the southern edge of the pond. Recreational wetland was, okay. Look at the picture. This is the area. Right. Right. Yep. There's been no disturbance of the soil. Right, that's the pond over here.
So that's all stuff that's flubber.
Okay.
You know, they haven't gone in there with any equipment, they haven't dug up
Right.
stumps, they haven't disturbed the soil.
Right.
Basically just putting back vegetation where the tree was removed.
Do you have any thoughts on that plan?
I'm fine with it. I would just say that the wetland markers probably should be moved to the outside of the buffer. They provide, I think, 7, the little red dots, the 7 wetland markers. I would just say they should be on outside of the plantings. Otherwise, I don't really have any concerns.
Thank you.
So can we let this be handled administratively?
Well, they already submitted an application for restoration, which means statutorily they have to wait like 14 days for an approval. So I would draft a resolution and have it approved at the next meeting. You can approve it at the next meeting.
Sounds good to me.
I'll make a motion.
I'll make a motion.
So does that
So
mean
you have
we
to-
can't do anything until
The next
meeting?
The next meeting is August 23rd,
Okay.
which would give you time to, procure the plantings and plan for it.
Oh, that's what,
Yes,
okay,
but
so
we-
we do that.
You can, plan for that, but in general, on the 23rd meeting of August, we would have a resolution and they would, approve or deny it.
We'll still remove any of the big trees that fell down into it.
I would just leave it, I would leave it right now as is unless the commission has different plans. I would just hold tight until we,
Cheryl's gonna be able to deal with everything going out as far as site visit, let you know what you could do. We're gonna, I think with maybe a condition or two, prove this, and then it's gonna be solidified at the next meeting.
Okay.
So I-
We can or can't plan. I'm sorry, I'm not understanding.
I would wait till we get a resolution for approval at the August 23rd meeting.
Okay.
And you can call me tomorrow and we can go over it if you'd like.
Okay, and I want to thank Cheryl for all the help because we didn't have a clue.
You're not done yet, you gotta think a lot more.
No.
I'm going to make a resolution to,
For the next meeting.
Can I ask one question first? You asked about the removal of things and if you need to wait for that. Is there any safety concern about that? Is there any reason that has to happen sooner?
No, they're on the ground. There's nothing that could fall on.
Not at this point.
Nothing live.
No, thank you. That's a good question. Okay.
You said.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we'll talk. Take care.
Okay, thank you.
So say make a motion to. Okay, then that's how we start.
Right. So I would like to make a move to approve with conditions.
Well, we're gonna have a resolution for the next meeting.
Right.
And then you guys can approve it. Yep.
Oh, we don't have,
Since it's an application, they have to wait 15 days after receipt and review to approve. So I'd draft a resolution for the next.
The resolution.
hasn't been submitted yet?
No, it's submitted. It's
we can
an
approve it?
application before you.
This is an application.
An application, you have to wait.
No, you can't do it in wetlands. You can't approve the same night you see it.
Right.
If it's a formal application.
Can we motion for you to draft a resolution?
Right.
Sure.
Yeah,
There you go.
that's what we were doing.
Okay, sure.
Okay, so you want to do it?
Sure. I move that we draft a resolution to call for the next meeting for approval. The changes.
Gotcha.
So that would be the
Second.
second from Commissioner, we have a motion from Commissioner Smith, second from Commissioner Kelly with the change of where the location of the sign is.
When markers change, okay.
All in favor? Okay. Have to.
Trucking along.
Now we have general discussion, other, wait, let me ask. Are we supposed to do the public, once we determine we're regular meeting, can I? Next meeting.
I mean,
The determinations we did for regular meeting.
we haven't even determined tonight.
No, I can't remember, like I'm drawing a blank.
Which one?
The ones that we determined would be a regular meeting.
Today.
I'll hear them.
They're the ones you've already
Next month.
discussed, so 421 web. You received it, you heard about it, you said regular meeting, 14 days after receipt, I can draft a resolution for approval for the next meeting.
Well, so we can make a decision, as a commission can make a decision on those two tonight?
No, because you just
Wait for the
received,
next meeting.
right, exactly. I'm going to draft resolutions for the next meeting for those.
Right. Okay.
By Victoria is a determination as well. That's
Right.
a determination.
We're gonna have the meeting, we're gonna have the hearing on it. The regular meeting next month.
Yep.
And decide then. Okay, got it.
I don't know why, still have to jump back to this one.
You can still, I mean, you can still hear the application.
Yeah, do Victoria.
Oh, is Victoria here?
Oh,
Here we go.
I apologize.
Okay, so let me just call it out. For application, hearing determination, IWC 2023-05, file 14475 Victoria Drive, proposed field expansion in an upland review area. Our Nunez Lay 2 LLC owner applicant, Solely Engineering LLC representative.
Do you mind clearing my screen, please? I apologize, Commissioners. First off, my name is Chris Pulaski on behalf of the applicant. Here with Solely Engineering, office is located at 501 Main Street. We're going to talk about 5 Victoria, which you can do from you all for proposed field expansion. So this is a map of the town of Monroe. And then if we zoom in along the Monroe Trumbull border, 5 Victoria, if you proceed north on 25 and make around Victoria Drive, it's located here. It's currently developed as Ole Soccer. It's a year-round indoor-outdoor soccer facility with various training programs and various soccer skills camps. It's been before the commission, I want to say it's now the 3rd time. The first time was the original approval for the Ole Soccer building in the field that you see in the back. There was also substantial wetland remediation, wetland creation that was done. That was all approved by this commission around 2014, 2015, and then subsequently installed, and all the kind of approvals and sign-offs were granted around 2017, 2008. And also in 2021, there was proposed 22 or 25,000 square foot expansion. We were hoping to get it indoor across the facility, but it didn't work out between the owner and the applicant. That was also headed for approval about 2 or 3 years ago. Some of you on the commission may remember this application. We are here before you to seek an inland permit for a field expansion. So currently, this is a little bit about the project. Our client can only hold 7x7 lead games in this field. It's just too small for the regulations. So we're seeking to expand it about 15 feet in one direction and 20, 25 feet in the other, in order to accommodate 9v9 and 11v11, the typical soccer games, if you will. And again, he can offer them currently. In addition to that, we're hoping to build an 800 square foot building, so 4 columns, roof, open air, just for someone to get cover if there's a little bit of rain or have a picnic or whatnot. So, as a part of that, the site currently has about 75 spaces. There's an existing parking lot that extends up this way. If you look at the screen, the existing field is right about here. And we're going again like 20 to 25 feet in this direction and another about 15 feet out this way. We're removing the parking, so it's actually a reduction in impervious coverage. It's all going to be turned to green space. Inside of the pavilion, and then of course the field will be also impervious area of green space. The facility is currently overparked. There's again 75 spaces. There's no more than usually 30 or 40 cars maximum in the facility. And even with the reduction, because we are going to be eliminating about 5 to 8 parking spaces, we're still going to be parked to code. But there shouldn't be any worries with the reduction in spaces.
Is it grass field?
Yes, that is correct. It's going to be a natural grass field.
Will we go to a regular hearing?
I want to ask before we, well, actually making a motion, but I want to ask a question. What were the previous hearings? Were they public or were they a regular meeting?
On this application or the previous?
All of them for this property.
The previous application, the public hearings, that was because of the scope and extent. We're simply just here to expand a field. It's already a cleared area in the back.
Can you give us a better indication of where the expansion is going, in what direction?
So if you look here, this faded gray line that runs along the edge, coming out to this is the new fence line here. And then this gray line here, we're expanding out 15 feet to this new fence line.
So it's 15 and 25.
Yep.
And how far,
26 or 27.
how far is the limit of disturbance to the existing wetland line?
So we are grading down, so we can move the swale here, and then there's some grades over in here, but then we're just simply connecting in the existing field topography. So it's a less than half an acre disturbance in the upland review area, and there's no direct wetland impact.
Well, you
Can I
made
have a question?
Go ahead.
You're talking about removing invasive species along the river,
That's correct.
and there's quite a bit here. And there's, I'm just wondering, why do you have to do that? Why can't you leave that invasive species? That's a riverbank right there.
That's correct.
The whole length of that field.
That's just something that was identified as one of the comments from town staff. We listed a bunch of different methods as well for invasive species management. So the commission wants us to only remove those areas outside of the riverbank, on the other side of the wetland, we're more than commendable to what's appropriate, or what the commission deems appropriate.
What is the method?
So there's multiple methods that are approved by Connecticut DEP. We list them all in here. On the plan set, they're on 2.61. There's the manual removal, that's going in there, pulling out the invasives. Essentially Roundup, which is a chemical to spray to disinfect it for spot treatment of some of these items. And there's another 4 or 5 different methods that are approved by the DEP that are got this landscape approved.
So my concern is with the usage of the herbicide, glyphosate. Glyphosate. You know the history on this? There's a huge history, and right now the latest is that Bayer has put aside $15 billion to handle the lawsuits associated with glyphosate. Glyphosate is the active ingredient in Roundup. It's very popular, but I don't believe that this is not, although it's not banned, it is not approved by DEEP. They just don't have any grounds to outlaw it. EPA has not outlawed it, and there's a lot of research going on. But there's recent research is making it even worse because it has been, in 2015, the World Health Organization said it was probably carcinogenic to humans. It's 2015. 2018, that's when the lawsuit started. $289 million was given to a farmer. They have $12 billion set aside now, and it's just the problem. The thing is that it's very effective. The problem is it's very effective. My problem is it's right along the river, and it's not just a small portion. A significant area of invasive species. I'm not sure why you need to remove.
So in Connecticut, we like to have Connecticut native species for wetlands as buffer. Invasive species, they are very, they multiply quickly and they choke out native species. So that is something that we look for in a lot of our applications. But as he mentioned, going in physically and removing them, which might be a lot of work, but that if you don't want herbicides, that might be one way to go.
My problem is with the herbicide. My problem is not with mechanical. I understand that you want to take that, but I have a real problem with glyphosate.
We're happy to remove that from the plans, provide mechanical means of removal. I just wanted to present that.
So these are growing along the river on the bank.
Correct.
That green line.
Well, not really. So
It's the check mark line.
here, I have it actually in that.
You're orange.
They're growing into the bank.
Yes. On the
So
bank.
see this hatch, that's.
I don't know what the, I don't know, like in my opinion, mechanical removal works. It loosens up the bank, and now you get a rain, you get runoff, and now your, fines and dirt and stuff is going into the river. I would be for either leaving them or, I don't know what the tree, like you don't, so I believe when you treat the chemically, you cut it down to the stump, and then you brush on something onto the actual stump. So you're just applying it directly into the wood, right?
I believe so, but I think they also can use a spray bottle. Again, it's listed.
But they're not like spraying the vegetation of this plant to make it die. They're going to cut it and just try to kill the root.
Correct.
And that doesn't disturb the bank you know, the.
Yeah, theoretically, yes.
At all. It shouldn't really disturb it at all, because whatever is gonna grow in its place, which is whatever species that they want, is gonna now restore the bank and keep it secure while those stumps, you know, rot away over time.
Correct.
That to me is better than either one of them. Because again, I don't know what the chemical part of it is, if they're trying to spray the whole vegetation to kill the whole bush, or are they just treating a stump? Like, what is the plant that's out there, like Russian olive?
There's like, one sec. Let's see.
I did see in the notes that glyphosate is non-selective. Triclofer is selective.
There's some knotweed and some bittersweet, some mugwort, some black lotus, some common weed, among some other invasives.
So it's only like, it's not like any tree, it's not any hard, woody, nothing woody in there.
Oh, yes, it is.
You know, there's more. Yeah, there's a maple.
Which species is that?
Growing maple.
It's only me.
Yeah, Japanese knotweed is not good. I think we could talk about this during the.
I think, yeah, I agree. I think we should motion for a regular hearing. I think we should, I motion for.
Getting into the weeds, exactly.
Okay, all right, let's, so you want this to be you've made a motion for a regular meeting.
I second that.
All right, you have a motion from Commissioner Stewart for a regular meeting, you have a second from Commissioner Kelly, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes, and regular meeting. All right, committee uses as of right, moving along, committee uses as of right, IPU 2023-03, file 1451, 228 Pepper Street, town of Monroe Rail Trail. Proposal by Department of Public Works to pave 2 existing gravel parking spaces to create ADA compliant access, IW regulations, sections 4.2. Yeah.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. For the record, James DeMayo, town engineer. The Parks Department got a complaint about requesting ADA parking spaces along the trail. And this is at the intersection, it's the parking lot at the intersection of Pepper Street and Cutler's Farm Road. It's currently has processed parking area already. We identified a good location for these or proposing handicap parking spaces. Essentially, all that we're going to have to do is pave the area in order to make it ADA compliant and striped. So there's really no grading that's necessary, no other disturbances. It's pretty much just paving that one area that's already being utilized as parking for ADA purposes.
My only question is then, shouldn't they just pave the whole trail?
Make
it ADA compliant?
So could, but that's not the current complaint. And so the thing with ADA is we're just required to provide access to all the amenities, which that's what this is doing. We do actually have ADA places on other ends of the trail, but this would actually be the most optimal location for ADA individuals to access this trail. But
how many existing parking spaces are there?
In this one location, or
yes.
So there's no defined parking spaces. People just park all along the process strip because it's a one-way going from Cutler's Farm onto Pepper Street. So people park on both sides, which there are wetlands on both sides, but then there's a little bump out or hammerhead area where we're proposing the ADA spaces. Essentially, there's maybe there's enough room for a little bit over 2 spaces, maybe 3 normal vehicles, but because of ADA, we're kind of.
We're good. James, doesn't matter anyways, because you guys have as of right to do it. I just made my comment because I thought it was interesting that it had to be paved to park the car, but whole trails could still stay processed, but thank you.
My point is that there's a sufficient parking for non-ADA compliant people.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And again, we're really not, there, actually, people up to this point were not supposed to park there. That doesn't mean people didn't park there, but that wasn't the intention of this spot. So we're really not taking away any parking spaces.
All right, great, thank you.
To accept it?
No, we don't do anything.
So actually, it would be great to get a vote, just we fill out the bottom part of this permitted use as of right, that you contend that, yes, this proposal is considered a permitted use as of right or non-regulated use of a wetland or water course. And then we sign it, so.
Really?
Do you remember when the Public Works Department was in here before for that 10-year permit extension for maintenance? That's why you come for the commission for jurisdictional ruling that you guys.
That would be covered, this isn't covered for that? Isn't this public work?
It's a jurisdictional ruling that the commission gives on something like that.
Jurisdictional ruling. Sure.
Okay.
Made jurisdictional ruling by Commissioner Stewart. Second by Commissioner Smith. All in favor? Aye. Okay, great.
Thank you.
Now, do we have minutes?
None, Mr. Chairman.
All right, I'll table minutes. All right, now we have to elect a secretary.
Do we do the public hearings first? We still have the public hearings, right?
Yes, but we're just going to do this and then
Then we're going to do that after that.
Would you nominate somebody? I'll nominate Commissioner Kelly. Nomination of Commissioner Kelly. The other second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Stewart. Anybody else want to nominate anybody?
All right, so we'll take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Vote unanimous. New secretary is Commissioner Ryan Kelly. All right, so there. You're
I'll pay for this week.
Morning, everybody. That's today.
All right, so we are on to public hearing IWC 2023-3, number 1439 for 139, 141, and 201 Turkey Roost Road and 30 Cobblers Hill Court. Proposed construction of 99 single-family detached dwellings served by a community wastewater treatment system with proposed regulated activities. Review area, Corey Woods Associates LLC. J. Edwards and Associates LLC representing. All right.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
4 additional exhibits. Exhibit number 5, Arcadis letter. It's from the consultant. Russell Lorenzo is in attendance and remotely. Exhibit letter number 6, engineer comments. Town engineer James DeMayo is in attendance. Exhibit number 7, letter from Conservation Commission. And exhibit number 8, concerned neighborhood letter. Most of these exhibits, Mr. Chairman, were conveyed to the applicant.
Do we have copies of 6 and 8?
Yeah, I don't think I see those.
I have the one from
We have Arcadis.
Chairman Thomas from Conservation Water Resource. I have that. Number 7. I have number 5.
So what number, because I'm going to go to the copier. What numbers do you have?
I think I'm missing 6 and 8.
Okay. Yeah, do you? And we have an additional.
I have 2 more exhibits, Mr. Chairman. I have Exhibit 9, which is the Natural Diversity Database area from Monroe, from the Connecticut Deep website. And Exhibit 10 is just a few pictures I took at Smith Pond on our Monday site walk with staff. So I'll pass those out to you.
Do you want to get some of those copies to us so we have them?
Yeah, you can start with the applicant, Mr. Chairman.
Sorry, share.
For the record, Jason Edwards, surveyors, located at 227 Stetson Road. I'm joined by Russo, Rizio, attorneys, as well as David Panashevsky, who's the property owner, and Eric Davidson, Davidson Environmental, our environmental expert, and David Yorkland, Edwards and Associates is also locally. Everybody here is okay. This is called Quarry Ridge. It's a residential development. It's a site of what's long known as the Wren's Quarry. It's located 147 acre parcel east of Pinto Lane and Calvert Court. It's frontage access on Turkey Ridge Road. It's got a series of ponds along the south and the east, as well as wetlands that runs southeast from the northwest corner. As you can see in red there, the majority of the proposed development, or all of the proposed development really, is within the former quarry site. This is just some of the overview. As I said, 147 acres split between 5 parcels. The total wetland area on the property is 15.7 acres. The 99 acres of the property, which is what is proposed for development, is zoned MFR, multi-family residential, which allows for this. It is proposed to construct 99 single-family homes on this property, as well as we're going to be dedicating 81 acres as permanent open space. Development's going to be served by public water and an on-site wastewater treatment plant that will fall under Connecticut's Department of Environmental Protection, Energy and Protection, Energy and DEP jurisdiction. And there, most importantly, no direct wetland impact proposed. We're all within upland review areas of our proposal. Just to take some of the definitions from the town's regulations, these are what defines a significant impact according to the wetland regulations of Monroe. Any activity involving deposition or removal of material which will or may have substantial effect on the wetland or water course or on wetlands or water courses outside the area for which the activity is proposed. We have no activity proposed within the wetlands, no deposit of material. Any activity that changes the natural channel or may inhibit the natural dynamics of a water course system. We have no proposed activity which would change the natural channel if it flows. Any activity which substantially diminishes the natural capacity of inland wetlands or water courses to support aquatic plant life. I'm going to let you do the rest of that one. No proposed reduction of the wetlands capacity proposed. Any activity which is likely to cause or has the potential to cause substantial turbidity, siltation, sedimentation in wetlands and water course. Also includes extensive stormwater treatment design and erosion controls that are all exceed any guidelines that DEEP has, whether it's the 2002 erosion control guidelines or the 2004 stormwater guidelines. Any activity which is likely to cause substantial diminution of flow of a natural water course, groundwater, wetland water course. Any that will reduce the groundwater flows, and that any activity which is likely to cause or has potential to cause pollution of a wetland or water course. Our design, as I said, meets all DEP standards for stormwater and wastewater. And any activity which damages or destroys any unique wetland or water course areas has scientific or educational value. Proposal includes no removal or destruction of wetlands. So just to demonstrate that we feel we have no significant impact to the wetlands and water. Just to give some history, this was, as I said, the former Wren's Quarry. I believe was started back in the 1940s illegally. There was no permits for that. It ran under fire with the town on and off. In 2003, the current owner purchased it and came in with plans to remediate the site. In 2006, those were approved, and he began work on the remediation and completed that work, or completed it to what it is now in 2010. At that point, the economy had fallen off a cliff, and the financial viability of building the homes didn't work, so everything sort of paused. So really, the site's as it was left in 2010, stabilized and kind of barren since then. On the left, you'll see the 2002 site. It's obviously an active quarry, and then by current times, it's still a bit of a moonscape, but it's not an active quarry. This is just a closer view of that, where you can see what the site was and the level of damage that was being inflicted on this environment and wetlands here, and then where it is now.
Can you go back to, please?
Yeah, I've got it on the next slide. You want to see that one?
One more. I was looking at the drawings, the wetlands delineation in 2020. Where is that on any of these?
This is just aerial photographs. I have it further in the presentation, but it'll be on here.
Oh, there, on the wetlands plan sheet, there's a green and a red. And when I look at the red, it looks like the offset, not the, I'm just wondering, it's confusing.
It's the gray shading. I know what you're talking about.
Oh, I'm talking about the wetlands review, WL1. It has a red down here, it says 2020 delineation, which is actually, I think, the offset.
Yeah, that's what he was trying to indicate, was the offset is the setback line. The gray is the wetlands delineation from, see how the red and gray. Changed slightly. The green is the old line.
Okay, so for instance, this area here is new.
It's different flagging. Yeah, I don't know if it's
Well,
new,
it's
but
additional wetlands, and there's additional wetlands up near
the boundaries
54 and 50.
Yeah, they change depending on what soil scientist flags them. So he had a different opinion than whoever did it.
But you're talking about the solid line.
Yes, I believe that.
Yeah. And the gray, okay.
Yep. Skip ahead on its own here. This is just, we flew our drone and generated an aerial 3D site. As it looks now, You can see there's a lot of just bare ground, rock exposed ledge, bedrock exposed. So there's also some soil stockpiles and things that would be used for the development that are left on here from the original work. This is a little bit shakier camera, I apologize. But this is, the blue is where we are proposing all the homes. Purple would be the road. It's tough to look at with the jerking so much, but you can see it's all within the disturbed area. We're not proposing to construct any homes outside of what's already been disturbed. That was the intent of the original remediation, was to create a site on which we can then come back and construct the homes and limit the disturbance outside of this area. So you can also see, go back after this, just to show how much open space there is surrounding this property and how much we're preserving. If you look here, you can see it's a vast amount of green around this, and we don't plan to take virtually any of that down. There's a small area by where that rock outcropping is in the top left corner, where a septic area is to go, but beyond that, it's going to stay. You can see, you can't even see any houses in the distance. I think the closest house is about 1,200 feet away from the edge of our development. So that area there would all remain open space. That's the 80 acres of open space that we're proposing. In the far house, and it's Pinto Lane in the distance. So that access drive you see coming down the hill there, we're going to be following that same path to come up. We have to improve it, widen it, make the grades conform to the town standards in that range. But essentially, we're following the exact same path. So again, just to touch on the open space, and I think that's a key point of our application, is that, you know, the open space provides as much, if not more, protection to the wetlands than any other, you know, remediation or mitigation or prevention of impact. Providing this amount of space surrounding the wetlands is, in my opinion, the most impactful effort we can make to protect the wetlands. We're proposing 81 acres of open space, 55% of the entire site, 65% of that open space is actual uplands, not wetlands, area that could be otherwise developed. Again, just to reinforce that point, this is from the NEMO website, which is the Center for Land Use and Education and Research. This is a quote from that site: that permanent protection has dedicated open space is the ultimate way to ensure that riparian corridors and other critical areas throughout a watershed continue to perform their important functions. Open space acquisition by municipalities and nonprofits like land trusts continues to be the foundation for land protection in Connecticut. So it's, like I said, as they state, it's the ultimate way to ensure protection. Just to outline what our limited regulated activities are. This is coming up from Turkey Bridge Road. As I said, we have to change the grade and widen the roadway to come in to make it safe for access, two-way access, and for emergency vehicles. So these are existing homes that we're not planning to remove. We're going to be putting a head wall on top of that culvert that crosses the pond there. The other pipe is going to remain. And then we are proposing a little small water quality basin to capture the runoff from that area and treat it before it enters into the pond. That design is all been provided, the calculations have been provided, and it's in line with DEP guidelines. And the Monroe wetlands disturbance in 2,800 square feet of regulated activity, which is 0.04%. So that's 4/100 of the total site. This is activity number 2. Again, it's at an existing culvert. very similar to the last one, really. We're crossing the pipe that's already there. We're not expanding that culvert, we're just filling on top of it. We have no direct wetlands disturbance. This drainage is piped back up to the ponds on the top right of the screen there, goes out through that pond. This one, we have 12,000 square feet of upland review area impact. That's 0.2% of the total site. This is regular activity 3. This is our water treatment ponds. We've got 3 of these proposed in this area. Only one of them, the actual pond, is in the review area, which is the one on the lower left of the screen. There wasn't any piping, standard stormwater basin materials. These are necessary to treat stormwater before we supply out into the existing pond system. This is 18,000 square feet. This is our largest upland impact, upland review area impact, and that's 0.3% of the impact, so 0.3%. This is number 4. This is associated with one of the wastewater absorption areas. We're about 80 feet from the wetlands with that. Really, the disturbance is going to be grading. The one thing to keep in mind on this site is we have a more detailed, but there is a wastewater treatment plant, an on-site sewage treatment plant proposed, and that, according to DEEP, for the statement from DEEP in here, that water is good to drink by the time it exits safer for drinking after it exits that plant. I don't know that I would drink it, but it's safe for drinking. So by the time it gets to here, it's treated water. This is actually some statements from our environmental scientist. Eric, are you on?
Yes, I am.
Yes, do you want to go through this quickly?
Sure, yeah. Can you hear and see me?
Yes.
How you doing, everyone? This is Eric Davison. I'm a wetland scientist and soil scientist at Davison Environmental, practicing out of Chester, Connecticut. Just briefly to go through the wetland impacts, all of everything I'm saying here on this slide is included in my wetland functions and values report, which was submitted to the commission. There are 2 wetlands on the site. Wetland 1 is the very small isolated wetland in the northeast corner of the site. Referring to that plan sheet you were discussing earlier that shows the wetland delineation from the previous delineation and the present, setting aside the error with the red line there. If you look at that sheet, the wetlands are numbered on that sheet. So if you're not sure where a wetland area is, but wetland 1 is a very small isolated wetland in the northeast corner. It's entirely created from the former quarrying activities. Wetland 2 was used to denote the remainder of the wetlands on the site. So it's a very large wetland system, but we kept that designation because all of the remaining wetlands from the east side to the south side are all interconnected. So we call that wetland 2. And then if you look at my report and that same plan sheet, you'll see that we have wetlands 2A, B, C, D, and E, basically just to describe the different wetland areas within that wetland 2. But essentially all of the wetland 2 areas of wetland 2 that are subject to upland review area activity are also created from the former quarrying activity. It's certainly possible that some of these wetlands were present in the quarry and were altered or modified as they quarried through wetlands, but most of them appear to be created simply by the fact that the grade was lowered to a point where they intercepted groundwater. So that's the basic description of the wetlands. I can certainly elaborate if you have any questions. But essentially, when we looked at the wetlands back in 2020, they were certainly well on their way to naturalizing. Most of them were shrub and sapling dominated, very dense brush that you'd expect to see on a fallow quarry. But they were starting to naturalize. They were starting to develop some topsoil, some, clear concentrated flow banks and channels. So over time, those wetlands will naturalize and have a more typical hydrology and vegetation. In terms of wetland impacts, essentially all of the activities in the upland review area for construction of stormwater treatment features. The nice thing about the landscaping plan that's been developed is those stormwater treatment features and all of the areas that interconnect between those, as well as limits of disturbance leading from the edge of the development back to the edge of, where these stormwater basins are going to go, will all be replanted. And that's all in the landscaping plan. So eventually you'll have, vegetated wetlands that are functioning as stormwater treatment systems bordered by meadows that are native vegetation. So all of that area essentially around the limits of disturbance will become green space eventually. And I think another key feature of this project with respect to wetland impacts is ultimately when the site's construction and grading is completed, there are no homes within the upland review area. They're all outside of that 100-foot zone. Just referring back to the stormwater treatment basins, they're all designed as primary treatment basins, which is, basically the maximum amount of treatment you can get in terms of pollutant removal from stormwater. So they have a thick organic soil material. They're densely planted, and they can capture and sequester all kinds of stormwater pollutants, from sediment to nitrogen to phosphorus to hydrocarbons. So primary treatment measures are the best option for stormwater quality treatment. The last thing I just wanted to touch on was the issue of the box turtle. When we flagged the site in 2020, we did observe a single adult male in the far west side of the quarry, right up against the tree line. It's in an area that's in the proposed open space. But overall, this is certainly really good box turtle habitat. They love fallow gravel pits. It's excellent nesting habitat. It's excellent basking habitat. And as I'm sure you've heard on other projects, box turtles are prevalent in Monroe and the surrounding towns. So we did put together a protection plan. The key component of that is basically when the site gets constructed and the perimeter erosion controls get installed, basically we have someone like myself or someone that's also qualified to inspect those erosion controls. We want them to function basically as a barrier. Once those are installed, we basically search the site right before and as they're clearing the vegetation to try to find any turtles that might be in the active construction zone and move them outside into the open space. The basic idea with the protection plan is hopefully preventing mortality of adult turtles during construction. It doesn't, it's not mitigation for habitat loss, which certainly I'll concede that, converting a quarry to residential development you will lose some box turtle habitat. But certainly there'll be quite a bit of habitat remaining in the open space. We had a back and forth discussion on this, our team, in the past week or so, about what else could we do in that open space to maintain more optimal turtle habitat. And the client has agreed to work on us developing basically a plan for a portion of the open space that is in the fallow quarry. And essentially what it would be is brush hogging those areas to maintain them as open early successional habitat. You basically want to brush hog every 1 to 5 years. You can vary it. You can mix the areas where you mow. But basically the idea is not letting that area revert back to forest and keeping it what is more optimal habitat, which is dense meadow and brush, which box turtles love. And the idea would be to mow in November once the box turtles go into hibernation, because they don't hibernate in the open gravel pit areas, but they hibernate in the forest. So then we wouldn't run over any hibernating turtles when we do the maintenance. I know there's a lot of nuance to the wetlands on the site, and they're large in size. And I know I kind of went over them quickly, but I know this is a big application and you have a lot on the agenda tonight. So I'll stop there, but of course can answer any questions you have about the wetlands or any other aspect of the project.
You had mentioned a report that you had submitted. Do we have copies of that report?
Yes.
Is that in our packet?
It should have been in there.
What number is that?
Is it full?
While they're looking for that, I did have another question. You'd mentioned earlier that there were eventually things are gonna get restored to a better state. Can you define eventually? Seems a pretty vague comment.
Yeah, well, what happens with created wetlands and gravel pits again? You know, if you imagine, you know, this was part sand and gravel, part glacial till and bedrock, and all of those different superficial geologies were disturbed. And when that happens, and you lower the grade to the extent that they did where these wetlands occur, you basically intercept groundwater, and that is the simply put the way you create wetlands. Initially, when that happens, you basically have standing water sitting in open sand and gravel and rock. So that's not your typical wetland habitat. Wetlands are highly eutrophic. They have they capture and store a lot of organic matter, but so that's not present in a developing wetland. So initially you have sort of like these quarry ponds where the water is clear. There's little organic matter. There's also little life in them because you don't have the organics, the leaf litter, all of that's required to have sort of a typical wetland food chain. But over time, you get pioneer species. Some plants can establish in gravel areas with almost no topsoil. So you start with those. They start to drop leaves, roots die off. All of that becomes your typical topsoil and duff. It's what happens over time. Eventually those wetlands will get that organic matter. The vegetation will reestablish, become more mature. And then you start to get some micro topography in the wetlands. So the water starts to move more slowly. You start getting more infiltration and water holding capacity in that organic soil. And then they eventually will become shrub and forest wetlands. You're talking on the order of, 20 years to see, moderate change. But, in terms of being able to walk in there and not know that this was a created wetland from a gravel pit, you can be talking beyond our lifetime.
Okay. Guys have any questions?
I'm just curious because it feels that there is a lot of objection from Jim DeMayo. And I see kind of a back and forth just in terms of your responses to the town and then counterpoints back in Exhibit 6 about there not being enough information. Jim, are you still with us?
Yes, sir.
I'm just wondering if you could give us just, I've been reading through these on a number of occasions. I just did receive Exhibit 6 now, but could you just give us some high level? It looks like you have a lot of concern about sedimentation and erosion control, around stormwater control, and the fact that there's not enough information about how those things may change once this site is laid out. Could you just share with us your concerns, if you provide whatever amount of summary you could on that long list so that we can dig in a little bit deeper in some of the areas?
Yes, sir. Yeah, a lot of my concerns are either minor tweaks to the plans in terms of, or things that could be resolved by minor tweaks to the plans. However, some of my bigger concerns as they relate to wetlands, the first big one on my list was the alternative plans that were previously submitted do not show any of the stormwater management areas that would be needed for those alternatives, which I do think is relevant due to the fact that almost all of the stormwater management is either inside the upland review or just outside with this current proposal. So I do think that that's important for the Wetland Commission to have. Wanted to confirm that the Connecticut general permit has been submitted to, because we are disturbing more than 5 acres here. One of my major concerns is also the fact that, according to the drainage report, the east pond is being used as retention as part of the stormwater management to, not increase peak flows off the site. And I don't believe that I saw any indication from the applicant's team of how that would either negatively, positively impact those wetlands, because they will be adding substantial amount of water to it. There are a couple detention or retention basins that discharge significant amount of water during, some of these storms, and it's pretty much a over 15% slope just outside of that. So I'm concerned, even if there's no disturbance in the upland review area there, the amount of water that is sent out and concentrated now in these areas will be significant to the point where it could cause future erosion in these areas. I do, again, some other just clarification stuff that the applicant's engineer shouldn't have too much difficulty providing, including, a little bit more detail on the watershed map, due to the fact that I'm concerned of, as they mentioned, there's a couple pockets of wetlands that will have culverts going underneath the road. So I want to confirm that those pipes are still going to act and work as intended. I want to make sure that you're not adding more water to those areas, potentially causing flooding, things of that nature. And then also one of the other, or the last two big things in my mind are a little bit more detail for the main entrance where the retaining walls are going to be constructed, because as the applicant's engineer stated, they will be constructed on top of the box culvert. But I'd like to see a little bit more detail there, because that's really the closest disturbance area that they have in relationship to the wetlands. There's also, just because I'd like to also know if, and get confirmation that the water company is at least open to this extension as well, because this is a substantial project, and I want to make sure that their system can handle it, and they don't have it, even just from a conceptual review, that they don't have any concerns. And I think the only other big one that I had is on the eastern side of the property. They do have a discharge point about 25 feet from a property line, and there will be significant, I believe that's a 36-inch pipe. It's two 24s to a 30 or 36-inch pipe. So it's a pretty substantial pipe. And there's also what appears to be off-site wetlands right there. So I would just like some more information on that. And I think that it'd be helpful for the commission to also have this information.
Thanks, Jim.
Have you seen this report?
Yeah, we got responses to it. I do have more of my presentation to get through.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
You do have responses we can follow up with. Thanks. So just to circle back to the little design, on this site, we have a wastewater treatment system proposed that is anticipated to have an average daily flow of 40,000 gallons per day. Commission's information, anything over, any wastewater system design over 7,500 gallons per day is regulated by DEP. I believe there's a letter in the file from the Health Department confirming that. This is a bit of a unique situation because this was approved previously for development. We do have a current DEP approval for 20,500 gallons per day. That includes one of the wastewater absorption fields and the entire sewage treatment plant. We've also identified two other areas and done extensive testing to determine we believe we have a capacity of 19,500 gallons per day that still needs to be approved by DEP. And as I said, the system design incorporates an on-site sewage treatment plant or wastewater treatment plant. This is just a snip from the public health code that explains what I just said about the jurisdiction.
So you're gonna need to put another treatment plant in at some point?
No, this treatment plant is sized to handle this amount. They oversized it when they designed it. So we have to put in two more fields for absorption, but the treatment plant. Unless DEP says otherwise, the treatment plant should remain the same.
The plans show the other absorption fields?
Yes, they do. I'm gonna have to go through those. This.
I have another question. You said 40,000 gallons per day. How did you come up with that figure?
It's based on, it's average gallons per day, and that's based on the number of bedrooms.
Right, so there's 297 bedrooms.
The prior approval was, it was a senior living facility, right? Is that
Yes.
why you're changing the calculation?
Yeah, and there was a different, I don't recall exactly what the formula was, but there was a different formula applied at that time because it was age restricted, so that it anticipated to be less water usage. So they allowed for more houses with lesser gallons. Now we're coming with basically 99 4-bedroom houses.
So you have 297 bedrooms.
What do we have? 4. I'm sorry, 4. Yes, 4. It would be 397.
397, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So again, this is the wastewater absorption area that is approved by DEP. There's no proposed regulated activity associated with this. You can see where the red line is. That is the upland review area. Wastewater is fully treated before it gets to here by the treatment plant.
How does a absorption system work?
It's basically a big leaching bed. So it's at that point it's almost clean water that's just infiltrating down to the ground. So we have I think we have all the details of that on this plan, in the detail sheet. But I don't know exactly what that's constructed of. I have to ask the design.
So you plan on bringing in soil? Because I know there's like no soil left there. So
There is. I mean, this is outside of the quarry. So if you let's just pull up the site plan too. The area that's devoid of soil is the former quarry, but that is only 44 acres of this entire site. So this is kind of just an overview of the site. So we're proposing all the homes in this former quarry area. We then have this first absorption area down here along the existing driveway. There's a now abandoned home here with a yard, and this is naturally occurring soils here, good soil. We then have another wastewater absorption area up here in the back. That's also in natural ground. And then the third one is down along this edge here. Again, there's an existing house here, but this is all natural understood ground. So we'd be going into natural soil. You have a question?
No, that's a pond, right, next to where you just indicated, right? Over? That's from the road, if you go
East, yeah, you get to the, you're on the shore of the pond. aren't
The
you?
pond, yes, the pond is over here, yeah. So we're closest that we get to the edge of that pond is 80 feet with one of the absorption areas.
You have Smith Pond, and then what's the name of that pond? You know?
One name pond. Yeah, I don't think it has any.
It would be good to put names on them or.
There is designation.
Nation.
The new ponds and the ones on site, that's.
Okay, all right.
Off-site. Any other questions on the locations of those on this sheet? So, and that was the first area, which was along the driveway coming in. The second area, which is along the pond that you just mentioned. So there's one area there that gets close to the pond, the rest of them all a bit farther away. And then this is the third area, which is all the way back and not near any wetlands. This one is the latest study the hydrogeologist is studying it now. Goes on, it's got to test I'm confident in what. This is the wastewater treatment plant, which is located on the main access drive. So all the housing is up here and everything runs down to this treatment facility, and then it's pumped out from here to the various absorption areas. And again, according to DEEP, the discharge from the plant is fully treated to DEEP standards prior to leaving the facility. Just for some information on the treatment plant and the effluent qualities that are required. This is from the DEP design manual standards, and these are the values that the treatment plant has to meet for pollutant levels, and design does do that. And so this same treatment plant package was formerly known as Xenon. It's now Viola. It's changed companies, but it's been installed in various places around the state. There was a study done by DEEP just a few years back, but this was a quote from the study. Groundwater monitoring located within the zone of influence of the permitted systems has continued to consistently show levels of total nitrogen, total phosphorus, and life form technology suitable for drinking water and other domestic uses without further treatment and do not appear to be cause for concern. So they're essentially saying that it's fully treated by the time it leaves that plant, so you're putting clean water back into the ground. And those have been functioning for over a decade now. And just to give a breakdown of the differences in what's required for a DEEP system versus a state system. Like I said before, the DEEP standards apply to anything over 7,500 gallons per day. Design requires a very detailed hydrogeologist analysis of the groundwater movement. They do studies over months, take readings and detailed calculations, which we have provided as part of this application to determine how that groundwater is moving. Whereas the state health system, you need to dig a couple test pits and determine the groundwater depth, and that's just a static elevation. The standards are site specific for DEEP, so there's no set standards. There's guidelines, but you have to design to what the site allows. For state health code systems, you have a one size fits all. You have a standard manual and you design based on that. DEP requires that all systems, majority of the systems, be monitored quarterly for the life of the system. So my office does that with a dozen systems around the state. We go out and measure, take readings on groundwater and measure depths of effluent, and that goes on quarterly. The permits must be renewed. I think it's, they changed the timeline, but it's around every 5 years that you have to go back and renew your permit. And one of the requirements of the DEEP design is that we have to compute what they call a 21-day travel time. So we have to, the hydrogeologist computes how long it will take for the groundwater, the effluent to travel in the groundwater for 21 days before it hits something, either it be ledge or a water body or a property line or something else that they deem to be critical element. Now, compared to what's required for the state health code systems, you have a 25-foot setback to your property line. There's no site monitoring, permits never expire. There's no required setback to wetlands, and you can split sites to increase the amount of flow you can get and make the system clear. So the point of this is just to show that we have to go to a great standard of care to make sure that the effluent coming off this site is treated to standards that is suitable for returning to the ground. Whereas the health code doesn't make you jump through all those hoops. And just to kind of familiarize you with the permitting process, just a typical sequence. In this case, it's a little different because we did have that previous approval, so we already have one area and the treatment plant approved because we have a previous approval that's now expired. Usually you would not get, well, they couldn't get that approval until they had the local approval. That's the first, you need that first. The first step would be preliminary site investigation to determine the area suitability, which we've done. We do site design and calculation of preliminary discharge estimates to determine, what can be built with that sized area. Prepare a detailed soil and groundwater study, prepare groundwater mounting model, and this proves the available design flow capacity. At that point, we go to engineered site plans, which is where we are now. We then submit local permit applications and obtain those local permits. Then we can submit the deed for their review. They don't want to review something that might change based on local, local commission's decision. They want to review the final plan. Then we obtain the deed permit to construct, and we obtain local building permits to begin construction.
Are you aware that it's within a natural diversity area, state and federal listed area?
Yes, that's the box turtle that
Yeah.
was talking about.
So is DEEP going to review your plan for sufficiency?
They will, as far as the septic, and we will also have to submit to the stormwater program for a general permit prior to construction. Yes, they will be reviewing the plans. And this is just a confirmation of correspondence that I have with DEEP. This is from Lauren Jones, who's the supervising sanitary engineer for the division that regulates wastewater treatment in DEEP. And she essentially confirms what I just said, that local approval process should begin first, and that, if anything changes in the local committees, we'd have to go back to them. That. This is just the drainage flow paths on site. Next inspection. This is the watershed map. This is new. This is something that was requested by town engineer. So we prepared that, and it'll be in the revised plan set for him to review. But just to give a rough overview of the watershed areas here.
We don't have that yet.
You don't have that yet. No, I got it. It's in the box over here. Which I can skip past this if you'd like. You've got an area here that drains down into Smith Pond and Smith Pond Brook. You've got this area here. I'm going to read it at this scale. It drains down into that's the proposed area. I'm sorry. So that's going to drain down into the western basin. This goes into the center basin, and that's this area in the middle. These are the new stormwater basins. And then this area here comes down to this pond. All of the stormwater then comes out of outlets of each individual pond. You've got 3 large stormwater ponds here, the water quality ponds. They each have, as I said, an outlet. These 2 fully outletting to this wetland, this pond. This one has a split out that comes from to this direction, and then a pipe that goes out beyond the pond. That's all. There's a reason for that in our calculations. Town engineer will review that with us. This is just kind of the overall site plan to show the outfalls more clearly. Again, the 3 basins, you've got an outfall here that's out of a spillway, an outfall here that comes out of a spillway and down to that central area. This we've got a spillway down that way. The other outfall that was mentioned by the town engineer is this pipe section that comes out and goes to the scour pad here. We've made changes to that outlet in the latest plans. I have information on that for the town engineer. The design of the proposed development will increase the amount of impervious area on the site, resulting in higher peak runoff rates. However, the water quality treatment, as we've designed it, results in original flow patterns will be maintained, and there will be no increase in peak runoff for the 2, 5, 10, 25, 50, and 100 storm events. This is just the breakdown of those numbers here. And this is all in the drainage report. Slide. We've also added, this is again a response to a comment from town engineer, I believe. Just pollutant removal calculations. We had originally included the TSS removal calculations, which are the ones on the right, the blue. We've now also included removal rates for phosphorus and nitrogen. You can see that we're 99 to 100% of, 97 to 100% of the phosphorus and 100% of the nitrogen based on our calculations. And the TSS requirements by DET is 80% removal, and we've got 85% in 94. Again, these calculations are in the report and the town engineer. This is again in response to some comments regarding the tree inventory. This information was actually in the last submittal, but it was tougher to see. The sheet L1 in the original submittal contains all the trees. But the vast majority of the development area has trees now. The existing trees are shown as the small dots in that darker green color. So you can see this is heavily wooded all through here. There's total existing trees on site. We estimated 2,791. The trees to be removed are in this orange areas here, some here, there's a few down here, a couple over here, and there's a couple of here too, I think, that are obscured.
Okay, pass the question.
There'll be time later for public comments.
So the very few trees will be removed, and then as part of the landscaping plan, we show a total of 417 trees. Those are the light green and this over here as well. So we're going to end up with the total trees, on the site of around 3,100 trees. In the regulated area, that was a specific question. You only see about 9, 10 trees that will be removed in the regulated area. The number that will be installed will be about 30. So we're actually going to gain some. And we feel the addition of these trees will assist in controlling erosions and should help with the root systems. Another comment that was part of a third-party review as well as the town engineer was the blasting. Now this site, as part of the remediation approval, they were permitted to pre-blast this. So they've already blasted the entire development area. They've dug test pits at that time to verify where the depth of bedrock is. So what we did is we took those test pits that we have logged, and they're all shown on one of the sheets in the plan. We've established a bedrock surface and then overlaid our surfaces. And the only areas that we identify as possible blasting areas are in the light blue, which shows here, as well as some trench down here. And then this area up in here, there might be some in the distance. The closest we get to wetlands with that blasting is about 500 feet. These purple circles are 500 degrees. So we're not expecting to have any blasting really anywhere near the wetlands. it's relatively minimal due to the work that was done years ago. We do have a detailed sediment erosion control plan that's part of the plan set, but this just outlined, our silt fences, proposed silt fence and double silt fences, purple lines. And you've got temporary sediment basins are these orange features throughout. We've got a very detailed plan. I'm not going to go through every detail of it, but we'll review it with the town engineer. And if you have comments, we'll certainly work on addressing those. Again, we're in compliance with the 2002 guidelines for soil erosion control, soil erosion and sediment control. GD1 includes our stormwater pollution control plan, site monitoring schedule, construction sequence, and then owner and contractor certification statements. And this gets to our alternatives. This is alternative one. We are proposed as an alternative. Same 99 unit development that we have today, but then because that 30 Cotton Court piece is a separate parcel with 30 acres, we could also develop that. In this case, we're showing a large apartment complex. I think it's 196 unit apartment complex. We would, similar projects have been approved recently that have gone through the approval process through the state health code sequence that I displayed earlier. That same level or same plan or path of approval could be applied here because we could split that into multiple concrete units. Plan it out, we have good soils there. We don't feel it's necessary to design a full stormwater treatment area. I mean, we would have to do that if we came through with an actual plan to submit to build. That's going to be a requirement of anything we do. We feel there's definitely a suitable area to provide one. That big rectangle, that whole area is as big as the condos, the apartment development. So we would have that whole area to work with as well as beyond. And then as far as the stormwater area for the existing development, the other, that would be the same as what we're proposing. That's alternative one. And again, this alternative would obviously result in a significant reduction in the open space and the benefits of the wetlands that that provides buffer to the neighbors and the environment in general. And this is similar as in we have the same development that I spoke of the 196 unit complex on the Howard parcel, but then we could also reduce the number of buildings and consolidate them into apartment buildings, utilizing the same sewage treatment plant that we have designed today, and the same stormwater treatment area. Again, this stormwater treatment, it's a large undertaking to really fully design that. So we feel that's a bit more than should be required for just an alternative concept plan. We're not planning to build that now. We just want to demonstrate viability. That's what we like.
Alternative one is essentially, it's not changing anything about the plan other than adding the additional.
Yeah, we removed the open space essentially and built the open space.
Houses, the houses are all the same amount of houses.
Yes, it's in that house.
So if we think this is bad, then that's worse, right? That's right. Put more people in the same amount of space.
Yeah, that's what it gets back to. We feel this is the most feasible improvement that we're proposing. We're within the disturbed area, we're restoring that original plan. We're disturbing very little. Disturbing very little upland view. And we're also providing the ADA space, which is a huge benefit for wetlands. That is my last slide. So at this point, do have responses to the comment letters that we received from the review as well as here. So I can continue to go on through those.
Yeah.
feet. On top of the. Jim, there's one of these, James, there's one of these in here for you that's got the stormwater report attached to it. The rest of the top one has got the extra report.
This also in response to the Arcadis report?
Yeah, it is our engineer and the operation commission. I'm going to start with Arcadis report. I think that answers some of James' questions.
Sorry, I'm sorry. Russ, are you with us? Is Russ with us?
I am. I had to find my mute button.
Okay, no, I just want to make sure you're here listening to their feedback to your report.
Absolutely.
And then we'll get to you after they provide some comments about that.
Okay.
So this is the report. You have this paper copy and we just handed to you. We received the letter from Arcadis from Russ Fiorenzo, July 20th, and we reviewed it and prepared the responses. His first statement was, I have completed my hydrologic review. And he states that there's 90 detached homes on 106 acres. The proposal is actually for 99 homes on 147 acres. 80 of those acres will remain as open space. He also then has a longer paragraph. I'm not going to read it for his report here, but he says that this application is very similar. Not much has changed from the previous application, and we don't really agree with that. We think that there is some significant change. We've obviously added 9 additional homes. We've added 80 acres of permanent open space. 65 acres of that is upland. We provided wastewater treatment design for the entire development. We provided updated stormwater management design and calculation. We do have a current full serve letter from Aquarium that was submitted. Provided a tree inventory, and we provided a DEP dam registration for the and currently, we kind of believe, or I do believe, that the previous application really is irrelevant to this current application. It's a separate application that they should be treated separately. And the separate response has also been provided to the town engineer, as he states they had similar comments. It says the primary challenge with the proposed application is the lack of soil on site to allow infiltration of stormwater. The site is mostly bedrock because the soils are mired in the past during boring operation. The lack of infiltration requires complicated engineering to determine storm and treat stormwater. The plan proposes several detention basins that will flow. This statement is inaccurate. The total subject property is 140 acres. As I said before, only 44 acres have money. So there it is. And this whole development is also within the former quarry site, with the exception of the stormwater infiltration areas and the wastewater infiltration. These areas are designed and constructed soils that provide adequate infiltration. The 2004 DEP stormwater manual defines infiltration as groundwater recharge volume. Further permits the submitted stormwater management plan. Required groundwater recharge volume is 16,990 CF cubic feet, and we provided 85,569. In addition to that, we're also going to be providing the wastewater infiltration, which is fully treated water. That could be up to 50,000 gallons per day at a maximum. So that will all be reduced to groundwater. So it's our opinion that infiltration is not a challenge on this site. This refers to the blasting. Again, we've identified the areas that for potential blasting, and he did not have that information when he did this, so we're not providing that. Closest area that he feels may need to blast is 500 feet from the soil. The site was pre-blasted for development, and test pits were done then, so established that layer of rock that we need to deal with. Going to greatly limit the amount of blasting. And this statement kind of is a broad statement that blasting could affect the wetlands.
Can I jump in for just a quick second here? Because I'm just kind of scanning through this. If we go through this, every comment in detail, we're going to be here till midnight.
Yeah, that's.
So I think it would make sense for us to take this and review it. I mean, and if we have questions, we can go through it because.
I do agree. I think Jim is going to have to review your package in many ways, right?
So, I mean, I think we should give it its, due course and go through this whole thing properly and, I just think it makes sense for us to go through it separately.
Yeah, Mr. Edwards, what I'd recommend is just kind of broad stroking the big ticket items that you want to make sure you drive home to the commission.
You want us to do that tonight, or you?
If you want to give us like a 5-minute overview of, hey, we hit these points, make sure you see that. Because I'd like Arcadis to have a chance to, make some comments tonight as well, and also let the public chime in. So
I'll skip ahead here. Then the blasting issue we touched on. Just want to make sure I'm responding to the right one. So this is to the. This is also the town engineer's comment on the existing pond and the use of it in stormwater treatment drain. All of our water quality is done upstream. So all the water quality treatment is complete, and we have the full water quality volume in our basins. The calculations do include the stormwater pond, the existing pond for detention. But that's a man-made pond that was created as part of the gravel mining operation back in the 60s, sometime around then. There's a concrete outlet structure. It's designed to act in that fashion, in our opinion. And just to, I've quoted here from the stormwater quality manual that it is not it's a guidance document. It does not permit or prohibit anything. We have free range to interpret it and unique situations, different approaches apply. And we feel that the use of that existing pond is warranted here. And then again, just in the 2004 manual, it actually specifically says that drainage features such as vegetated swales, channels, natural micro pools, or depressions should be preserved or incorporated into the design of the site to take advantage of their ability to infiltrate and calculate flows. So we're in line with there. We don't know anything in that guidelines that specifically prohibits it. So we feel it's good use of the existing pond. And just one more point here is that, we've got a required water quality value for the design is 23,000 cubic feet. We're providing 85,000. And during the 1 year storm event, nothing leaves those ponds until we get to 50,000. We're storing more than we are required to for water quality farming. And again, we can review these calculations with James. This is in reference to the dams. That we did consult DEP and we did register that pond burn as a dam. We don't have a registration number yet. We have correspondence with them. So we submitted that information to the application. Sorry, with this latest submittal, I submitted that dam report. It also was a downstream assessment on the.
All right. So again, let's I'm trying to summarize here rather than, because again, we're going to read through this. I don't want you to think we're not going to, but
Attorney has to talk some. But I'll be brief, Chair. Commissioners, Chris Russo with Russo Lindsay offices at 10 Sasko Road in Fairfield. And Jason said it all, but the only thing I would just say is to add is that we feel this is a tremendous opportunity to frankly reclaim the site, which has a very long history. Fortunately, my client bought this property, deed this property, and solved an issue that this property was littered with violations when that happened. Was really troubled. It's been often referred to as a moonscape. And now for this plan that Jason's prepared to really reclaim this land and add a lot of just great benefits. I mean, just the tree inventory itself, to being able to just take down 75 trees for this development and then replant over 400. Just one thing in this that we think is just a incredible transformation for this property. And if I can just zoom out, like kind of as a town-wide view, and I think this is apparent to everybody who lives in this state, there is a tremendous demand right now for housing and a tremendous need for housing, and it's felt everywhere. I have done a 300-unit application in Bridgeport, and I've done a 300-unit application in Cheshire. Cities, towns, everywhere, there's this tremendous demand for housing. And so if you look at Monroe, and your POCD references the demand for housing that Monroe faces and to create more units. And so if you look at that demand and you look at this project, and then this project can supply 99 units to meet that demand. And think about other parts of town that might have to be, particularly virgin areas of town, that would have to be disturbed to create that number of units. And then we have an opportunity here with this piece of property, which was disturbed long ago, it now affords the ability to place those 99 units there and do that with minimal disturbance. Again, just the tree inventory itself, removing 75 trees, but replacing it with 470. And do it in a way where there's no direct impact to the wetlands. There's not a single house that's proposed within a regulated area. I think Jason has demonstrated with his engineering, sound engineering, to make sure that there's no significant impact to the wetlands. We just feel that this is a tremendous opportunity. It's a very unique opportunity for the town to meet this housing demand, but really protect the environment and the wetlands, and put it in an area that does it so well. So that's just kind of a general comment, we'll work with the town engineer in response to his comments, and then guessing you're going to let the public's comment on as well, and so we'll respond to that as well. But just want to stress that we feel that this is a tremendous opportunity for a project, just from a zoning perspective. Does not need any variances, does not need a text amendment, it doesn't even need a zone change. What we're proposing is fully permitted under the regulations. And we're able to design it in a way that does not have a direct impact on wetlands. So that's all.
Is there going to be any blasting, to get the water from, Fan Hill Road down to the property?
Yeah, it's possible. It looks like that road was cut and fill, the old Cherokee routes, but we don't know.
Steve Benchesky for the record, owner of the property.
Then I guess we'll conclude our presentation then.
I'd like to get some comments from Arcadis right now.
Yes.
So, Russ, if you're still around.
I'm still awake.
Okay. So obviously, you're going to have to get a copy of the comments that they provided back based on your report as well as the town engineer's report. So maybe you want to just keep it a little brief for tonight until you have an opportunity to kind of read their comments. But feel free to add what you need to add to tonight, and then we'll we'll kind of go from there.
Right. Well, obviously, I appreciate that they responded to my comments quickly. They did come up with a better tree plan, a blasting plan, and it did address many of the comments and concerns that I have. But I haven't had time to obviously absorb what they've said tonight or read what they've said, and we could do that going forward. My biggest concern with this application is the amount of water that's going to be going into the pond. They're basically treating the pond as a detention basin. They say that the pond is almost back to a natural state. And what I've seen at that pond, I was there Monday, it's a vibrant wetland system. We saw turtles, and they probably were box turtles. We saw all kinds of wildlife, and the ponds are pristine wetland systems. And we need to make sure that our numbers are checked and rechecked. My main concern is flooding, and they could address that, and they could answer what my concern is. And if they answer it and they're confident in that, because nobody wants to see that pond overflow or that dam let go, because that would cause a lot of damage downstream. So I am concerned about the amount of water that will be going into the pond in the event of a 25 or 50 year storm. And I'd like it to be clear. I'm not here to try to deny this application or try to give information to deny the application at all. It's a valid application. There's some but there's a lot of information, and it's taken a lot of time to go through it all and make sure it's correct. So I would like more focus by the applicant on the impact to that pond in terms of quantity of water during storm events. I also, and I don't know if the applicant knows this, they may, I saw in the file a dam assessment report, but what I saw Monday was the dam is, there's some erosion around it. I think the pipe may be blocked. There's a beaver dam on the other side of that pipe, which is probably, the pipe probably isn't blocked, it's probably backed up because of the beaver. There's also another pipe that's going to be installed as an outlet on the right side of the dam if you're looking downstream. I don't have much information on why that is being installed when there's an existing pipe there. Maybe it's because that existing pipe is not, will not handle increased flows. So that's all. I'd like the chance to review what they've responded back to my letter, and that way we could have a better conversation next time around.
All right, thank you.
Consider doing maybe a percentage of the driveways permeable? Would it make much difference?
Yeah, we'd have to give that some thought, and just cost versus benefit there. You know, there's already a lot of impervious area here. I mean, impervious area here. We'll consider it.
Does staff have any comments or questions?
I have a few comments. As far as feasible alternatives go, there's supposed to be 2 minimum, but I think that the ones that were proposed either intensify the use on the site, but nothing really changes with regard to the wetland, except intensification. So I would say that, the commission should see something that gives them options with regard specifically to the wetland, to the upland review area, to the limit of disturbance and what's going on in that area. Let's see. In the comments by the applicant, all upland review area activity will be revegetated into meadow habitat post-construction. So it should be raised. What were those habitats classified before they were disturbed? Were they wooded areas? Were they meadow before that? So what is it? It's being converted to meadow. What was before? So on sheets S6, which is called the site plan, for Treatment pond number 4, the outlet, that discharges near the property line on the west side of the property. It looks like there's some kind of a water course there, and I was not sure if the soil scientist has flagged that area, because usually when there's a water course, there's wetlands straddling both sides of it. So that might be an area that has to have an upland review area and a wetlands and some kind of protection. So that should be looked into. Let's see, so that might need to be delineated. In the regulations, section 6.7, 7.6, I'm sorry, F, G, and I speak about items that to be included in environmental impact studies, wetlands assessment, and just a few of them are a narrative of how the applicant will change, diminish, or enhance the ecological communities and functions and values of the wetlands and water courses involved in the application. I think enhancement needs to be looked into. Alternative, which would cause less or no environmental impact to the wetlands or water courses. In section G, number 3, wetland associated wildlife. Now, I don't, this whole area is a natural diversity database overlay that approximately locates endangered, threatened, and special concern species and important natural communities. In June, I think of 2020, it was noted that there was a box turtle in the western side of the property. When we walked the property on Monday, we saw one in Smith Pond, which is right near the entrance in that driveway, where there's going to be a box wall constructed, silt fencing put in, stormwater runoff discharge points. In Exhibit 10, which is just the pictures, it shows that section of Smith Pond where that, right behind you, where that head wall is going to be put in, the box wall, I'm sorry, and the discharge points. So that's highly vegetated trees providing shade, habitat for wildlife. That's where we saw the box turtle. In Exhibit 9, and this is just from the Connecticut Deep website, it shows you where that location is, the Natural Diversity Database area. It mentions in there that you may submit a request for Natural Diversity Database state-listed species review or site assessment. So that's something that the commission should consider. And it was also mentioned, let's see, going through all the new stuff that just was submitted. Can't find it right now. But I think it was mentioned in one of the things you guys just submitted. Here it is. I'm sorry. The applicant submitted this, and this is from Deep to Jason Edwards, dated 7/25/23. We recommended field surveys to be conducted in order to evaluate potential habitat and species presence. Field surveys should be performed by a qualified biologist with appropriate scientific collecting permits at time when these targeted species are identifiable. A report summarizing results of such surveys should include. And there's a bunch of things listed there. I think that if the box turtles are there, you don't know exactly where they're located. Obviously, there are multiple areas. There might be other species of special concern. And I think considering the fact that the applicant has also said in their report that there will be habitat loss. That's confirmed in section 5.34 of Davidson's report, that there's going to be habitat loss. Mitigation plan, restoration plan, where is it going to be, some kind of mitigation plan should be submitted with that. And I'm not sure how they're going to protect the turtles if they don't know where they are, and if there's other species of concern that need to be identified. So that's a concern. And yeah, they live in the dense meadow and brush, which they mentioned, and that's what this is. So those are my initial comments.
Good comments.
Good comment. Is there something we can, like, how do we analyze where these turtles are? Is there somebody that can?
We have to get Deep involved.
Well, there's Deep, but there also, it says field surveys should be performed by a qualified biologist with the appropriate scientific collecting permits. So, I'm not sure, it's up to the commission. These are just things I'm putting out there. Someone is qualified, a qualified biologist who has these collecting permits is hired to
So there's a
assessment of these upland review areas, these wetland pockets, these ecosystems that are.
I know that we're viewing this as a totally different application. Was something to that effect, was that report not done? Wasn't that?
Wetland assessment? Oh, that was for a different property. There was one for this one. That was the copies that he made.
I thought there was an environmental study that we funded. previously.
For this property? Oh, I'm not sure.
No, no.
No?
I can answer these questions if you'd like. me
Eric
to.
Davidson's on.
It's Eric.
If you guys want some answers.
Go ahead. Eric, go ahead.
So, Eric Davison. So the Natural Diversity Database application process has not been done on this site. It's typically done when you have to go for a stormwater permit because you have to have Natural Diversity Database compliance when you file for a stormwater general permit. So we can file the application now if the commission's interested in seeing what species come back other than box turtle. But we have not filed that application, just to clarify, because it's usually part of the state permitting after the local permitting's done. But just to clarify, the comments of several people said they saw box turtles in the ponds. Box turtles are not an aquatic species. So if you were seeing turtles out in a pond in a body of water basking, those are not box turtles. Those are most likely painted turtles. They're not a wetland dependent species. They don't live in the wetlands. They don't live in the pond, although they will sometimes go into wetlands, particularly when it's hot and dry. In terms of the box turtle surveys, DEEP generally doesn't require, they used to, but they no longer require when you go for a stormwater permit and box turtle records are in that vicinity of the site. They generally no longer require actual on the ground surveys. Rather, they require the protection plan, which is why I proactively put it into the project plans, because I anticipated if we were to go for state permitting that they would require that protection plan. So that's just, I hope that clarifies a few things on the box turtle issue. But in terms of the site use, yes, they could be anywhere in the open gravel pit area of the site. But generally speaking, they like edge habitat, so they're more likely to be concentrated along edges of forest and open, as opposed to, out in the out into the open areas. Hope that helps.
Thank you.
Can I quickly just respond to the comment regarding feasible and prudent alternatives? And we'll have more to respond to it at the next hearing for this. But one thing I wanted to highlight is that this project covers 147 acres. It is not just the area we're developing. So, and I kind of got this too from the comments that were submitted from the expert, that it almost glosses over the fact that this proposal that's before you right now proposes to preserve 81 acres. Which obviously a significant area, it's a significant habitat area. So that is buildable area. That can be buildable area. And so to offer that amount of area for open space is significant. And that's why we feel that this is the most feasible and prudent alternative. I think from the comments that we read, what they're driving towards is a development that has less number of units. But I think the important thing to remember is whether it's 99 units or it's 80 units or it's 70 or it's 60, there is going to be an outflow of water. And I think, this is something we can show and speak to at the next hearing, but that as far as work in the regulated area, there is not going to be a substantial change by the change in the number of units. And so I just want to highlight that because I did see from the comments and from the comments from staff, but we'll come forward next time to go a bit further into depth.
So you're saying that if there's 50 houses instead of 99, that the impact wouldn't be half? I mean, I'm just saying that, you're saying that the impact's not going to be there.
If you look at the way this has to be accessed, that's the majority of our impact is our access driveway. We have to come in that way. There's no other way to get in. So all of that's going to be there no matter the number of houses you have. Also, storm retention and septic areas, those really have to stay where they are essentially because that's where the soil is to infiltrate and that's where the flow is going to have to go, for the storm drain. So you're going to have something in those areas regardless of scale, short of going to a single house or something, which just is not feasible. So your scale of number of units relative to the impact of the wetlands is not going to change at that same same rate.
And there's no dwelling unit proposed in the regulated area now, under the 99.
Yeah.
What about a road on the western side coming in where that apartment complex would have been?
I mean, we could put a whole subdivision over there.
No, I'm just saying, you're saying that most of the impact is that you're down by the ponds and you're putting that access road right through there.
Well, you can't make this, there's a cliff, the access road's already there, first of all, so there's a little less, far less impact because of that. But also the topography won't allow you to bring a road in.
Okay, but that's the kind of alternative we're looking for, is something different. It's going to have a different impact on the.
Well, the difference is that you wouldn't get the open space. I mean, the open space is a huge benefit to the wetlands. I mean, I don't see how that can be argued. It's 81 acres of preserved land that we could otherwise be developed and used. You know, that's gigantic. It shouldn't be glossed over, in my opinion. It's a big gift.
That is an asset to the town in general as well.
Yeah.
I just have, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there are 2 entrances to the site, aren't there? Is that
There's
true?
also an emergency exit off the backside. Yeah, that's like.
So if you put the road there, would there be less impact to the wetlands?
No, that's a less improved road, so it would be harder area to build the road.
But would there be less impact to the
It would
wetlands?
also impact the wetlands more too, because you'd have the ponds right there, you'd be right on top of them. The culvert's not as big.
Well, we're looking for an alternative besides the.
And really, that's part of.
Would you like to have it worse? That's not an alternative.
Really out
Right,
there,
yeah.
so it wouldn't change the impact.
All right, you guys have any more questions?
Next year, we can provide something.
That's what the alternative should be. It should be less of an impact, not more of an impact. That's not, we don't want more of an impact, obviously.
But
We do value what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, the end goal is you want the most feasible prudent alternative, which we're saying is this one. But I understand your comment, Commissioner, so we'll come back to address that further.
All right, at this time, we'll open it up to public. Appreciate you guys being here all this time, and so if you guys want to step forward, anyone in the gallery will get that online. Second, so anybody in the gallery wants to come forward, identify themselves, and make some comments. Step up to the microphone.
Yeah, good evening. Ron Sedonic, I live on 20 Morgan Lane. Could you do me a favor and just bring up the slide that showed the trees? Yeah. That's this slide. Yeah. On the green dots.
That's that.
Okay, so. Yeah, so. I guess that's the northwest corner. It says open space, but there's a line you can barely see, right? That is an area that's not open space that comes off of Cobbler's Hill, right? And right now, I don't know if you're coming back with a different proposal for that area, because right now you're showing it not open space, but still all the trees. So my question is, what's happening with that space? And is that part of this discussion? Because right now it's kind of presented as if that was going to remain trees, but I'm not sure that that's the case. And I'd like to get that on the record because again, my property abuts that piece right there.
Can I respond?
Yep.
Jason Edwards for the record. That is not part of this proposal. We're not proposing to do anything there at this time, but it is a separate, the plan is that the end of the open space at that line.
Perhaps you can define for him the term open space, because he's interpreting it maybe differently than you.
Preservation of land, but the lot that would be at the top is going to be a separate building lot. Someone eventually build a house on in the future.
Right.
So it's a different lot. It's a different lot. It's going to remain, whatever trees and foliage are there now are going to remain.
If it's allowed culture. Right. Yeah, I guess, I mean, they're kind of, I guess, again, maybe it's not for this meeting, maybe it's for the zoning. But they're showing it as one way, right? And I know maybe it's not a wetlands issue, tell me, I'll stop talking, but they're showing it as it's one thing here, right? It shows here's all our trees and it goes all the way up. And I do understand what open spaces means, they're not gonna touch that. But what's to say that they still won't come back where the open space ends and say we're gonna put an apartment building in there?
Well, we would be agreeing to alternative one if we went with this plan. Alternative two has a big building up there.
Just to clarify,
No, I'm saying alternative one doesn't define what's happening in that space.
But it's a different.
He's saying right now.
It's a different lot.
It's a different lot. It's not part of the current application.
No, I believe that's part of 30 Cobbler's Hill, which is listed as part of this, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, no, you're correct.
That is, right, that's what I'm asking. So it's a piece of property that they haven't addressed. And I'd love it to stay how it is, to be honest. If they wanted to put a house or two there, I'm happy with that too.
So
That's all reasonable, but I wouldn't want to see them come back after you approve this and then say, oh, now we're gonna put an apartment building there.
It's listed as open space and it's granted to the town as open space.
No, it's not. You can't see the line. This is open space, there's a line, very hard to see with the tree.
I can explain it.
Where there's a section, I think it's 4 acres above there, that's not open space. If you see the road coming off the left top, it goes into that section.
I can maybe clarify.
Sheet OS1 is the one you're looking for.
Thank you. So this is part of our submittal, and it just sort of shows the open space areas, and then it does indicate, and the intent here is to leave one lot at the end, your lot that could, intent is to build a single family house on. That would be accessed from but that's not part of this application. That would be down the road. Right now, there's access to that open space, to the public, through that cul-de-sac, to their bikes and everything else. They don't want to have that be part of, have that access into this development in the future. It's a problem. Yeah, I mean, for zoning, you could only build a single family house there, so we, with some sort of restriction.
So that's not included in the multifamily zone, that
No, it's not.
Okay, so that's simple.
And also that there's a restriction on that cul-de-sac that limits the number of lots you can have on that street, and they're at that limit. So they cannot subdivide that without some sort of zoning waiver. So it's one lot. Yeah, I mean, to build apartments there, you couldn't build what we were showing on that 4 acre park. You don't have a septic area, you wouldn't have nearly the room for it. And there's no intent from our side to do that. We can talk to the owner.
I'm sorry, can you just repeat what you said about the zoning as far as the number? Are you saying they already have the number of units off of that cul-de-sac?
Yeah, they're at it with that.
You would have to get.
So that lot would be the lot that didn't go on. So you couldn't subdivide that. That 30 Cobbler Court couldn't be split into more. There's no Cobbler Court.
It could be one piece of property with, does that define how many houses or anything else?
Private zoning, I think it's an RF2 zone, so it's a 2 acre, one family by per home.
But I thought that was 4 acres.
But it's a 2 acre zoning, so a minimum of 2 acres. So, but we can't split it because of the number of, subdivision regulations. So it's not part of the open space, but it's not part of this proposal to develop it either.
And it sounds like this is more of a zoning issue, not a wetlands issue. So, any other?
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Hi, I'm Derek Talbot, 202F Wingate Circle. I don't have a vested interest either way, but in listening to the whole proposal, if you could bring up one of the drone aerial photographs so I can ask my question in a better manner. It's one of the color pictures.
you want the one where it's flying around?
The one where it's flying around. Okay, and stop it a little bit more. A little bit more.
I can't speed it up, it's just.
Okay, stop it there. Okay. In listening to all this, I understand that the area in the middle here is where the proposed 99 houses are going to go. And I understand, I'm assuming this is a current photograph.
This is from, yeah, last month.
Okay. So you pretty much have a moonscape-like location here right now. You're proposing on 66 acres to put 99 homes, but where's the soil? How are the buildings going to be constructed? If you're talking about planting 400 trees here and you have 99 homes, how much soil do you have to bring in? I didn't hear any mention of that. I admit I don't know all the details of the project, but nobody's mentioned that in the last hour plus that this discussion's been going on. Maybe somebody can enlighten me.
Sure. We do have just a rough analysis or a simple analysis. We did a detailed analysis, but we had to have the final numbers on the plans. Gotta figure out what sheet it's on.
L3 all the way up.
Thank you. We have a detailed analysis of this, but we have a net cut on the site of 2,300 cubic yards. And we are placing topsoil of about 30,000 yards. There is a large stockpile of topsoil on site already. That's basically a hillside out there that was brought in for restoration. So that won't be trucked in, and there really shouldn't be much truck traffic in and out. Everything's
Well, how many tow truck fulls is 30,000 cubic yards?
size 20. So, but that's already on site.
Yeah, but you're talking about another.
No, we have 35,000 on site and we need 30. So they'll place the rest of it on site.
And that's topsoil grade, not sand or not clay.
No, I mean, that's he wasted some. Yeah. Topsoil that was intended to be used for the development, and the development paused. So it's been in place. It's in this back corner. Back here, yeah. It's basically in that, that's that grass area there. That's the topsoil right there.
And that covers your proposed development to how many feet?
I think we had that.
Inches.
That's standard.
Now that's being put on top of bedrock.
No,
From what I can see from that aerial view,
Have to go.
it looks like a.
Yeah, let's kind of direct everything properly. So it sounds like maybe we need to have a little bit better understanding of how you plan to treat, the soil and what's going to be underneath it. Is that already detailed in here?
Yeah, I mean, it's all in your plans, so.
Okay, then that's fine. If it's already detailed in here, then we can address that.
Okay, if there's questions after you read through them.
Yeah, that's fine.
It is all addressed.
Right. Okay. Any other comments from the gallery here? Any comments online? Questions? Anyone? No? All right, then I think we need to have a motion to continue this till our next meeting, so we have a chance to review all the documentation they provided us today. Right, does that make sense?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, August 23rd is our next meeting date.
So, need a motion to continue?
Motion to continue August 23rd.
Second.
Second. All right, we have a motion.
I would just add for the record that, yeah, the applicant would agree to extension to close the public hearing to August 23rd. You have the consent from the applicant.
Thank you.
I can't guarantee we're going to be able to close it.
We would just file it and that's another extension. Offer another.
Vote on? Do we need to vote on that motion, right? All in favor? Aye. Yes, all right. We will. Okay. More. One more. We have
Follow Ross.
IWC 2023-4, number 146, 260 Spring Hill Road.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I need to read the call of the hearing. And I have some exhibits. Notice of public hearing to be held July 26, 2023, in accordance with Connecticut General Statute 8-7D. A public hearing will be held on Wednesday, July 26th, 2023 at 7 p.m. or soon thereafter regarding IWC 2023-04, 260 Spring Hill Road, excavating and filling in an upland review area for proposed future development of a building, driveway, and parking area. Eldorado Holdings LLC, owner occupant, Rose Tizo, representative. And Mr. Chairman, we have 5 exhibits. Exhibit number 1, application and plan set. Number 2, wetland agent letter to applicant. Exhibit 3, response to preliminary report. Number 4, secondary review letter. Number 5, response to comments. That is all, Mr. Chairman. And we have received the return of notices to others.
Evening, Patrick Rose from Rose Tizo Company, 35 Brotherhood Avenue in Fairfield, Connecticut. The project. That's unfortunately. So what we have before us is the lot in question is this within the town of the here. 11, G, 5, cul-de-sac. Was developed in the 90s and 100 technology drive in 1997. And so after that, in 2005, 115 located with this lots, there is drainage, retention basin that is in the rear of the 115. Drainage things come down from these 3 lots into that. So that it properly provided Asian with a slope associated with site from the technology drive cul-de-sac where you're at 400, 390, 400, 450 towards the purpose. Our site is right here on the water setback. Where we're showing drainage off the west, and then a portion of the site drain. That way. Portion of this lot goes out to Spring Hill Road. A significant portion of this is wetland.
Quick question, part of this property, this little triangle area is Trumbull?
In Trumbull, a little triangles in Trumbull.
Right, yeah.
Just as a point of reference, we're showing this approval that was gained back in 2006 for a light industrial complex. Ended up being about 90,000 square feet parking around it. Approved by wetlands at that point, and it was approved for a zone change, changing from residence to industrial. Point of reference of what we had. We've shown two alternatives, which are actually real alternatives, but we're working at the site for quite a long time, trying to gain tenant or user for the site. One of those alternatives was actually a building split between Monroe and Trumbull. It's built into the hill here, then parking to the west. We are just in a buildable section of the property as far as the park. Alternatives never went anywhere just because we had trouble making Trumbull and Monroe cooperate that way. Another alternative, which is a true alternative, which we did more as a data center. This location, mechanical equipment on top, and access from drive, which this more buildable section at this point. The building was not overly large, so we want to keep it close to the road as possible. Some degree, put it back in the wetlands from what we've shown currently. This is the current application filling plan associated with the project. What we're doing is grading the driveway to the property of the hill. Future parking up here and future building platform here. I'll let civil engineer being still going to go through the details of the excavation filling permit. Wanted to show you that, and we'll come back to it. And then we had done calculations associated with cut and fill, associated with the filling permit. 54,000 yards of cut. About 50 yards of fill. So it becomes an extra 50-some-odd-thousand yards. It's going to end up having to go up Technology Drive to Route 111. Yeah.
Good evening, Manny Silva from Rose Oil Company, 35 Wetland, licensed civil engineer in the state of Connecticut. As Pat was detailing, the overall site is actually a subdivision that was designed all as one project. Where we had a subdivision of 3 lots, and our drainage was designed for about 100 technology. It has addressed on Spring Hill Road because it's in Monroe, and then it also comes at Spring Hill Road here, but essentially it's a lot less access from there. So what we have here is a kind of a first phase of the project so that we can get a tenant to come onto this property. And what they want to see is that obviously this grading here is going to take about 12 months. And they want to have a property that's more sellable by get ready to go once you sign up the tenant. So you can see here you have your wetland area here to the north, and then you have a brook basically that runs along Spring Hill Road. As Pat said, there's an intermittent brook or intermittent water course here, that comes down through a culvert under Technology Drive and 111, and then comes together with the same brook that goes along Springfield Road. They come together right here. This is looking for I'm going to try to go be brief there. I know you guys have been here. So what our proposal is basically is to have two platforms, one here lower for a building and number one. The grade here is a little higher, as you can see in the colorized plan here. So we're going to take out these areas in red and orange. That means that the cut is higher in these areas. And then the blue areas is where the fill is. Darker blue is more of a fill and lesser fill where the lighter blue and the greens are. So in the meantime, what we want to do is have a site that's stabilized prior to the construction of the final building. So we're going to do the grading here. Then we have some swales, or basically a ditch that has been cut so to collect stormwater, and then run on the outside of it, the downhill side of it. And then we have these stone check dams to block water from rushing down these channels very, very quickly. So these platforms are basically at 5%. And then we have some steeper areas here with platforms where the building will be able, and that will have basically some stone that'll cascade water down and into check the end of the water. We then have this water quality swale here, which is a large stone or stone bed that then goes to a catch basin. From the catch basin, our treatment train will have a filter unit, which is detailed here in the next plan, which will slow down water, it will swirl water around the outside ring, drop any suspended solids into the bottom of it. And if there is any flowable, which in this case we wouldn't anticipate any flowable because there's no impervious proposed, would be trapped in the outer ring portion here. And then the water will come up and then out to the existing stormwater system, which comes down here on Technology Drive, and then there's a large pond basically behind Technology Drive, around 65,000 cubic yards of cubic feet of water that it can hold. And we have submitted a drainage report, and sorry, I just dropped, I'll pick that up later. And the reduction, we have a reduction in stormwater from the existing condition. I'll read off that number really quick just so you guys have it. Again, the pond is 64,000 cubic feet. It's about a 7-foot pond. And at the 50-year storm, we'll have a reduction of 8% from the existing condition. And then at the 100-year storm, we'll have a 2% reduction. We had some comments from the town engineer. We got them on Monday somehow. I apologize for how we only got them on Monday, but just pass them up. They're very similar to the wetland staff, so we were able to turn them around pretty quickly. We have here. Again, I won't read through them all, what word for word, line for line, but essentially the town engineer asked us what the assumption was for the impervious area for lot 3 prior to the entire subdivision. The answer is about 65% of impervious was assumed. And that's basically a plan that mimics the alternative that we submitted and was approved in 2006, which is similar to this one here. That's used as a reference plan. Right here. So this is essentially what you're looking at. Again, just so you know, the lot goes all the way up to here. And so this is basically around 65% impervious area, which is what the pond behind 115 was designed for. We provided a watershed map. I think staff also asked for that, and we submitted it. The entry tracking pad, we have one here near the entry, near the exit or end of Technology Drive. So some of the things that we have, in addition to the anti-tracking pad for storm erosion control, is we have silt fence around the whole property, which is basically silt. It's reinforced, so it's a silt fence with a hay bale stake behind it, so that if any rainstorms like we've had recently, rainstorms won't knock that silt fence down. You'll have more of a structural rigidity to it. And here's the detail of that. So basically you have your regular silt fence that you would see on all your projects, but then we have a stake hay bale behind it to kind of structurally hold up silt fence, even if you have some load on it from rushing water towards it. So we use that as just because the slopes here are going to be a little bit on the steep side.
What are the slopes right next to the tracking pad?
So this is going to be, the tracking pad when you come in is going to allow trucks to come in and then do the excavation here in the back first and then work their way forward. So we want to do the cuts first, get the site down to these plateaus, and then this fill area is going to be the last thing we do. So that tracking pad it can exist here until the very end of the project.
And what's that slope going to be right next to it?
I think that's 2 to 1 around there. And then the other thing that I say is that even if we have this water treatment swale that comes here, the catch basin, the vortex unit, but then if that were to be, can get bypassed to a sedimentation basin, and that will further store water and allowing further turbidity to settle into that pond. Or into the soil water system. So this area here, once we do some test pits about for the septic system, that's one of the other comments that we'll determine the final shape of this fill area. So this fill area can get, if there is a suitable septic system area here, we'll do our test pits prior to doing a lot of this work. The shape of this fill area can get smaller. It might actually be smaller than what we're proposing right now. Just because you can't have a whole lot of fill on top of the septic system. So we would have to pull back this fill area and then preserve that area that would be designated for septic. We're just showing kind of like the worst case scenario here for the, not worst case scenario, the limit that we would want to see maximum for a fill area here. We also have a stockpile area here that's surrounded by silt fence, so that that's kind of a double barrier for any rain that falls on that material. I'm trying to think what else. Yeah, again, basically what we have is a treatment train. We're going to collect the water from these areas. Again, once this is all been leveled out, it's going to be seeded with our soil erosion control mix so that we can get a meadow condition out there until we have a tenant that'll come back in front of this commission with the final plan with an actual of that nature. But in this first phase, we're just going to convert this to a meadow area with a soil erosion control mix, and then it has these water collection swales so that water doesn't kind of sheet off into the Hunter technology. And then we'll have this, again, this water quality swale, and then we'll have a secondary treatment, which is that vortex unit, and then as an emergency bypass, if there should be enough water to bypass this case, which we don't anticipate there'll be a stormwater temporary sedimentation basin. And then from there, the water goes to another retention pond, which is large, 7 foot deep, 67 retention pond.
Where's that?
Up here. It shows the areas right here. You can see here on SQ1, there's a large retention pond here where the pipes, all this drainage from this subdivision comes down to a pipe here, and then from discharge, we'll have, it's basically a wet bottom retention pond, so there's standing water in there, and vegetation in the bottom of it, but it's a very large retention pond behind this. Again, that was designed as part of the whole park back in the late 90s. So I think if anybody has any questions for me, want to wrap it up and then have Mr. Kenny talk about the wetland assessments. That's okay? Thank you, Chairman.
I might be missing something because I'm so damn tired. But what, you don't have a building that's going on there. What is the proposed building? Do you have so you have nothing to show what's going to fit on that site?
So we have a couple of alternatives where we have a couple of site plans. For instance, this was a tenant that we had that wanted two buildings that had a connection between it with a warehouse. And then when we proposed this, the economy took a turn and they didn't want to come back or they didn't want the site anymore. We had another one, I think the biggest center, right? The technology center. So this was supposed to be like a high-tech manufacturing thing. And then this was a data center. And then these are all prospective tenants that kind of fell through. So throughout the years, again, this has been trying to get developed since the 90s.
And why?
One thing is that
excavate into the setback.
So because one thing that, for instance, a lot of, no matter what scenarios we come up with, it's always been that we have kind of an upper area and a lower area that needs to be created. Either it's for parking in front of the building, but one common thing is that there's a driveway that comes out, starting with the technology drive here in this area. So what we did is we basically created a phase one, kind of a grading plan to get started, so that it would be more attractive to tenants. So they don't say, I want to come onto your site, but it's going to take, a year and a half before we can even start putting foundations. They want to have kind of a site that they can market that's ready for groundbreaking. Right?
In your upper tier, it seems difficult to imagine us putting a building back in that area that's going to be 100% in the 100-foot setback up in review area.
Right. So this would, if you can envision, this would be where the building is right here.
Yeah.
More or less.
What's the upper tier for?
The upper tier is the parking that would access the second floor. So like you could have a parking area down here that accesses the first floor, and then you have to come back around that's up higher, and that would be the second floor, kind of accessing the backside. Again, I don't want you to think that this is a cut. I know everybody thinks that this is a fill. We're not filling this here. This is actually being cut down. So.
No, I understand.
Yeah. So we're actually flattening it out. Right now you have this knoll that's in here, right? If you look at the topo, it's not very clear here on the TV screen because it's being washed out, but there's a knoll there that right now the water just kind of flows really quickly down to either the intermittent water course that's here that flows to the south here, or here's the ridge right here, or it goes right down to the wetland area on Spring Hill Road and then goes into that little brook. So right now it's uncontrolled. It just goes kind of sheet flows all that way in a steep fashion. So what we're doing is we're going to flatten it out to about 5% so that the water kind of stays, doesn't rush out. And then this will just be a meadow condition with some swales to kind of pick up water, so it doesn't go off property in a way that we don't want it to go. We want it to go through our system.
Any blasting needed?
So that's a good question. We thought that we were going to blast this site here, and it ended up that we didn't do any. I don't want to say that we're not going to do any here because the bedrock here is like very weathered. So you're able to rip it. So even if you come here to 100 Technology Drive, you can see that there's a kind of a cut here that's rock. That's not a good representation. There's an area here that's kind of cut back and it's rock, but it wasn't blasted. It was just kind of ripped apart really easily. So to say, if there is blasting, we'll go through the permits with the fire marshal, and we'll do a site survey of all the neighborhoods around, and then there'll be a fully insured blaster, and make sure that if there is any damage to any neighboring areas or foundations, wells, that it's covered. But again, you would say, oh, there's going to be blasting because of the amount of work, but we had a similar situation on 115 and there was no blasting required. And there's, like I said, a very large 7-foot pond back there that we dug into the ground. And you can see that the sides of it are all boulders, exposed rock, and none of that was blasted.
You feel lucky?
I'm not going to tell you that it is or not, but all I'm saying is that we can develop 2 out of the 3 sites and we didn't have to blast them.
Good odds.
All right, so I'll bring up Bill Kenny and he'll talk about.
Yeah, take your crap with you.
What's that?
I said take your crap with you.
Yeah, well. Anything?
No, you could.
Good evening. I'm Bill Kenny, the principal of William Kenny Associates in Fairfield. I'm a professional wetland scientist, soil scientist. We were asked to help with this project first a few months ago to go out and identify and flag the wetlands, which we did in May. And then recently we were asked to take a look at this proposal and the existing conditions and the proposed conditions, and make some recommendations and conclusions with regard to potential impacts to the wetland corridors. There, as has been discussed, there's a wetland and water course on the western portion of the site. North is to the top right, and there's a wetland and water course system on the eastern portion. And the western is a more significant system. It's a small brook with a classic red maple swamp associated with it. As you get up into this area here, there's a home right here with a driveway that comes in through here. And this is more of a natural swale in this area that makes its way down to the wetland. So this part, the core area of the wetland here, closer to the stream, is of higher value, more diversity of wetland plants and whatnot. You get up into here, it's more of a transitional area. It's still wetland, but on the dry end of a wetland. It's a wetland, a drier area at the upper reaches of a wetland. This area here is interesting. It's a man-made channel, intermittent water course, but you may be aware there's a garden center or of some sort here, and there's quite a bit of equipment, construction equipment and construction materials that are stored on this property. I believe before this property was developed sometime in the past that this stream probably went right through the middle of that property. And what they did was you'll see they took the stream on their northern property line and they pushed the stream to their property lines. So now it runs west on the northern property line and then it comes south along this property. And they have dump trucks, backhoes parked right up against that channel. The channel is like 5 feet wide, 18 inches deep. There's piles of soil and all sorts of stuff piled along here. They built a small farm pond that's somewhere in this area right about here. So this is
not high value.
There's very little wetland associated with it. It's basically a channel. So it's been beat up. It's man-made. It does, as it gets off property, it gets into a Phragmites marsh. So there's a small area of Phragmites here, and then it goes into a pipe somewhere here. It goes under this property, goes under Technology Drive, that pipe goes under the other property over here, and then it is daylighted somewhere down here. So it's been worked over. We looked at the development. Right now, there's no structures or pavement proposed. It's earthwork, vegetation clearing, earthwork, and then revegetation, and putting a meadow back in place of a forests. Now, in the future, if there a building or was proposed, it'd have to come back to you for a new permit. But under the current permit, as a wetland scientist, when I look at it, I'm looking at what they're proposing right now. There's no work proposed within the wetlands themselves, so it's work within the review area, but not in a wetland. And they're proposing to regrade, but then they are going to reestablish the area as a meadow. The potential for impact comes primarily from water management, water runoff, the quantity and quality of water. If you look at runoff values for a meadow and for a woodland, they're substantially the same. So once that meadow gets established, you'll have similar runoff quality and quantity, as long as this is maintained in that way. So that's a good thing to have that under this condition. And then in addition to that, we do have a water quality inlet structure that's being proposed. So that's also an added benefit. So, we did make some I prepared a report. I have it here. I'll give that to you. Just finished it up today. And we have some recommendations to increase the width of the buffer on each of these that's being proposed. And also to maintain the drainage patterns so that the larger storms, with regard to wetlands, they're often engineering focuses on the larger storms for flood control. And so it's important to towns and permitting. You look at the 100-year, 50-year, 25-year storms, things like that. And those are very infrequent, very large, but they really don't drive what's happening in the wetland on a day-to-day basis. It's the small storms, things that are ½ inch to an inch that are happening on a regular basis. And where's that water going and how's it feeding the wetland and keeping its hydrologic conditions as they are. So we would recommend that for those smaller storms, we're maintaining those drainage patterns to ensure that the wetlands are getting the same amount of water that they're getting. So
Already done.
please answer any, if you have any questions now, please give it a shot.
Yeah, no, I think we need an opportunity to read through this.
Yeah.
We have copies that we could get to Jim as well. That's copies.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions? Is that up for your presentation? Okay. Any comments from staff?
I don't know if James has it.
James, do you have any comments?
He has any.
Yeah, I got a couple. I'll be quick as well. This is for the engineer. I just want to make sure I didn't see your responses yet, but a couple things I want to just focus on are the diversion swales. Just making sure you have enough information on that, including width, slope, construction materials, things of that nature. I don't know if you provided sizing or flow information for the water quality separator. Then I do also recommend that you add the limit of disturbance. Sorry, is the limit of disturbance the silt fence line? Just because that wasn't necessarily clear on sheet SP2A, where you have all of your cuts. I'd recommend adding the wetlands and the upland review area, so the commission can then see how much you're cutting within the upland review area. You seemed relatively way more confident than I would be that you won't need blasting, considering you have some areas at over 30 feet deep. So with that being said, I do notice that you have multiple areas on the property that are a 1-to-1 slope. How is this planned on being stabilized? While I'm on that, I would also highly recommend you take a look at the zoning regulations for an excavation and fill permit, because currently you're going to need some changes. For instance, you're not able to do anything more than a 2-to-1 slope and or anything steeper than a 4-to-1 slope within 50 feet of a property line. There's also some setback requirements along the street line. I just highly recommend you taking a look at that. And then, if you want to discuss further, we can. But take a look at the zoning regs as well, because I have a feeling that that's going to push back a lot of potential disturbances near in the proximity of wetlands. And I know the soil scientist just mentioned the trying not to change the flows too much, more specifically on the eastern end of the property. This grading does change, your watershed to that wetland off that side of the property. So that's just something to keep in mind as well. That's it. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, address it step by step. I know everybody got along there. But yeah, so in the letter that I just handed out to everybody,
Go through all the detail. Yeah, and that's fine.
Yeah, you don't have to go through the details right now. I just wanted to make you aware of these main focus points of mine, because a lot of the other stuff you did address. So at least that I heard you address. So
yeah, I didn't want to go through all of them because I think they're just going to kind of digest everything, and you have to look at it anyway, and then I'll have another back and forth anyway. So yeah, I think it's in that letter that I handed out.
Yeah, so let's go through it.
Want to go through it right now?
No. I mean, let us go through it separately.
Yeah. Order pizza. Let's go. Come on.
Yeah, no, we'll go through it separately, and then we'll get back to it. We'll have to continue this to our agenda. I think that makes more sense. Anything else? I'm sorry.
I haven't reviewed the new plans yet, and Mr. Kenny said that he had some suggestions in his report that modify the buffer. I just wanted to make sure that plans are submitted, or maybe they have been, that reflect his suggestions. As far as pretty and feasible alternatives, again, one of them was the data center that showed, the protection of the eastern wetland. But again, the pretty and feasible alternatives relative to this plan of excavation and fill, I don't really see anything that changes. Again, maybe that's in his report, and we'll have plans that show an increased buffer and something that the commission can look like that's changed in the upland review areas particularly. And it also shows on page SP-2 in the upland review area, all the trees of concern, specimen trees, larger trees. I'm assuming that they're all going to be removed in the upland review area between the silt fence and the upland review area, which is, it seems to be, I'm not sure, I haven't counted them all, but over 50 trees are going to be removed, which I'm sure provides shade, habitat, water uptake. So I would suggest maybe that maybe wildlife habitat be looked at as to what's in that upland review area and adjacent to the wetlands. That's gonna, when those trees go in that area, what's going to be affected. So that's in the regulations too. And then the western wetland, the western area, that fill is very close to the wetlands, and I'm worried about the diversion of flow that might, starve or recede the wetland long-term, since it's so close to it. And if it changes the flow into that wetland, it will recede over time. So I just want to have that clarified as well. Those are my initial comments.
Good?
Give me from the public.
Yeah. Anybody from the public with comments? Come on up. Please identify yourself.
Derek Talbot, 202F Wingate Circle, Monroe, Connecticut. I'm here on behalf of my father, Edward, who resides at 257 Springfield Road. There were some comments made about the brook here. That brook flows 24/7, 365. I've lived there almost my whole life, not right now, obviously, but that flows all the time. I don't know if that the proper word is wetland or not. The brook is a tributary which feeds into the west branch of the Pequannock River, which I don't know if you're familiar with Spring Hill Road or not, but on the Trumbull side, just up, the dump is just up above the Pequannock, West Pequannock branch. As far as the acreage, if I remember the numbers correctly, it's between 4 and 5 acres for the main part of what they're showing in the right-hand side of the diagram. That's very heavily wooded. It's multiples of 50 trees. So you're essentially going to be cutting everything down except for whatever buffer you allow them. I know at the last meeting, 100 feet was mentioned. I hope that's still the case for the neighbors involved. Anybody care to comment on that?
I would have to see what the tree schedule is on the plans, so.
The trees of significance are shown in the upland review area, which is 100 feet from the wetland.
Right.
So 100 feet from the boundary that they're showing.
Of the wetland, the red lines, those are the 100-foot upland review area that the commission has jurisdiction over to review of what's happening in that area.
So when you say 100 feet, is that from the red line to the property line?
To the wetland line, to the wetland.
I'm confused. I guess you'll have to show me.
The green areas.
I can't make that out.
So you see the arrow, the green arrow from the line from the red down?
Okay, I see a green line.
Yeah.
That's the wetland.
That's what.
And that red line is 100 feet from that.
That's the upland review.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I see that. Okay. Now, is that a town regulation?
Yes.
Okay. I'm also concerned about the wetlands area, and I'm also concerned about how close all this is to 266 Spring Hill Road, where the house, I can't quite reach that far. The house is just up above there. That's it right there. So I hope the commission takes that into account when they're reading through the documents for this.
From a wetland perspective, we'll look into that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Another thing I'm concerned about is the runoff flow. I know they were talking about the collection pond, which is in the upper left-hand corner and off the page of that diagram. I don't know if there's a mechanical unit involved with that. Perhaps they could answer my question on that.
Trumbull.
What's your question?
The collection pond, which is just off the upper left-hand corner, I don't know if there's a mechanical unit that the water runs through before it gets to the collection pond. But that periodically makes a lot of noise. A lot of noise. And cutting all the trees down and what's being shown here and having that water run off into there, what is that going to do to that whole system? I'm concerned about that. And I hope the board looks through the material and addresses that appropriately.
We will certainly take it into consideration.
But be cognizant that is Trumbull property, and you should also address Trumbull with regard to noise issues.
My father and I have had many prior attendances at the Trumbull planning and zoning and so forth. Trumbull, if you're from Monroe, they don't even pay attention to you. They don't listen to what you say. You might as well not even go to the meetings. I consider it a very unprofessional attitude but that's how Trumbull behaves. And you can put that in the record. And I've seen this over multiple years, multiple people on their commissions.
Well, we're not deciding this, we're not deciding anything tonight.
Right.
We are going to continue this to the next
I
meeting.
take my comments into account because my father and I, representing him, are both residents of Monroe.
Yeah.
And I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
So maybe something from Rostizo. As far as mechanical use, there's no mechanical use that make noise or anything. We are gonna have a gravity-fed vortex unit, which slows the water down, cleans it prior to going to the pond. That's to increase water quality going downstream into the pond, and then the pond will just hold water and infiltrate it even further. And then there's a control structure in the pond that lets water leak out slowly as the pond, as the storm brings water, in a rush, the water's held there volumetrically and then it's allowed to leak out slow. But there's no actual mechanical thing that makes noises. Is there anything else? I think as far as protecting the brook, I think, Bill, we're going to submit an alternative or a revision, which will have Bill's recommendation of having a 25-foot buffer there.
Okay. Any other public comments? Anyone online? Okay.
Motion to,
I think we need a motion to continue.
yeah, so,
Just to was it August 23rd?
so, motion to continue this on August 23rd.
Second?
We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to adjourn?
Blame the one night on the commissioner stewarding.
Yeah. Anything else? Are we good?
We are good.
Good, all right. We have a motion to adjourn. Who's seconding?
I second.
Second, all
Who made
right.
the motion? I'm sorry. Jim?
Jim Stewart.
Who do you say?
I didn't even ask.
Bob second.
See ya.